Good morning. Welcome to Division 1 of Finance. As the acting chair of Division 1 of the House Finance Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with House Rule 67 and the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. This is a work session pertaining to division budget matters. Please note that there is no physical location for members of the public to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that all members of the committee and select legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom electronic meeting platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting by the Zoom platform or by telephone. All necessary access information has been made available in the House calendar and through the electronic calendar on the General Court website. The notice of this meeting complies with House Rules and RSA 91-A. Anyone who has a problem accessing this meeting should email lba_fiscal@ledge.state.nh.us. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. LBA staff are on the meeting assisting us. Please note that all votes are to be taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. My name is Tracy Emmerich, and I am in the finance meeting room.
Good morning. We're Representative Ppe. I'm in the meeting room on LOB 202.
Gerald Griffin in the meeting room 202.
Yes, I'm Representative Mary Beth Walls. I'm in my home. There is my daughter and my husband are elsewhere in the house.
Okay, then I think we're ready to begin. Dr. O'Neill.
Excuse me, Chairman, I just have a question, and that is I'm having a hard time finding where we got the documents from the Office of the Child Advocate. Were they sent to us? Because they're not on the LBA website.
I think they will be. We were having a little bit of electronic issues to get started this morning, and I think Mike just went back over and he'll get the docs posted.
Thank you. It's just we've gotten so many. I was afraid I got them and couldn't find them. That's why I was asking.
Well, I can hold them up, but I don't think you can see what they look like.
No, I don't think that's going to work either, but thank you. That's very thoughtful.
It does have a color letterhead, so that might be helpful.
Nice. Well, I look forward to them being posted. I'll keep that up and refresh it. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. O'Neill, welcome, and the floor is yours if you'd like to discuss your budget.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for having us today. I'm Moira O'Neill, the Child Advocate. I have with me Karen Kimmel, who's our program manager and is our expert on our budget. Representative Walter, would you like us to email you quickly a document? Would that be helpful? Karen, can you take
it would. I would love that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to send an email. I'll have it right away.
Okay, perfect.
Can you send it to my attention? I'll make sure that it gets.
Okay. Do you have all the emails, Karen?
Well, I'll give it to you. It's MBWALZ at the regular legislative.
Great, thank you. So while that's going, I'll get started in the interest of time. And you did get the document. Thank you very much for sending the questions that you sent. It helped us prepare for this discussion this morning. The Office of the Child Advocate, which was established in the legislature in 2017 and came into being in 2018, is actually new again this year. On September 18th in 2020, RSA 21V went into effect, and so that considerably expanded the office's jurisdiction and mandate. So we're sort of starting fresh again. We now have responsibility for oversight of all children's services provided by or through arrangement of state executive agencies. So that includes, but isn't limited to, child protection, juvenile justice, behavioral health, developmental disabilities, early supports, and education as well. We meet this mandate essentially through four main roles. First, we review children's services and care, and that includes receiving complaints about services, working with the agencies involved to resolve the complaints, We visit children in care when we're not in lockdown from a pandemic. We do visit children remotely as well and assist them when they need it. And we review and monitor critical incidents that happen involving children who are in state care. We also review and collaborate on program and policy developments. This is all by statute, and that includes participating in many committees, working groups and advisory panels, and providing input for system improvements. The third role that we have is to regularly consult with and advise the governor, the legislators, the agencies, and public systems in the interest of children. Right now is a very busy time. We've been consulting and helping craft legislation to serve children. And then the fourth role that we have is providing outreach and education on state systems. And that includes providing children and other constituents with information about how the state operates, referring them to services, assisting with system navigation, and disseminating research findings and practice standards. We use the office as a platform to make sure everyone is informed about what children need. So in our 2020 annual report, just to give you a sense of the workload of the past year before the statute changed, we saw 312 individual constituent complaints about children receiving services or not. We managed 2,183 critical incidents we reviewed, and those included 18 child deaths. We do intensive critical incident summaries. We did 10 of those last year. We did 14 individual child case reviews that helped teams manage, make good decisions about how children were being cared for. We have a very interesting process to review system issues with a safety science-based instrument that engages, not only looks at the system, but also engages people who work in the system so that they can solve their own. And there's another long list of other things that we do. I don't want to take too much time on that, but I'm happy to answer questions about it. So looking forward to the next biennium, we're already seeing a great growth in our role as people start to understand our oversight and where we're helpful. The currency of the Office of the Child Advocate is access to information. So when we're brought in to help with system questions and create, whether it's creating new programs or evaluating existing ones, we're able to have a very special view of things because we have this access to information about children, all of their records, and be able to find out how kids are doing in the system. And that's really informative. We're able to keep things confidential, but also inform the process. So we've been very, very busy. We were hit hard by the COVID pandemic this year in terms of staff availability off and on, and we've still been a mighty little agency getting a lot accomplished. So you have before you the governor's recommended budget, which is $670,000 in the first year and $691,000 in the second. We have outlined priorities that were in our original submission, and also a couple of things we've rediscovered since then, so that our budget that we're asking for is between $816,000 and $854,000 in the first year and $862,000 in the second year. And why there's a range is that we discovered a new need in terms of a case management system and database that we haven't purchased, so we don't have the final cost of that. But we're looking at a couple of different systems, so that may change over there. So I'm going to stop there and take questions if you have questions about individual items, or if you want me to explain a bit more about the difference between the governor's budget and our requested budget.
I would make a comment about the case management software.
Sure.
I would suggest you touch base with IT, because in their presentation, they said that they have a lot of requests for case management and that they're actually using salesforce.com, which can be easily modified. Apparently, I'm telling you what he said. I have no knowledge myself, but you might want to check because it could be a less expensive way to get to the case management solution.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And just to clarify, when this office opened up in 2018, we worked with DOIT, who were really generous with us in providing for free for 3 years the Salesforce platform. We were actually the pilot for it.
Oh, excellent.
And what happened was, because when you're the pilot of a very large enterprise, you get what you get. And so we were grateful for that. But what's happened is, because it's such a large enterprise, everyone moved on to the bigger agencies, and we're so small. So we went for 2 years trying to make changes, because in addition to the software being new, they also were rolling out how to roll it out. You know, there were the sort of technical pieces of it. And so when they rolled out our system, it went really fast and it didn't correct. So we ended up with a system that's not all that useless. It's very good for holding case documents and keeping track of things. But we don't have a very robust reporting ability out of it, which is what we need in order to inform people like you. And so we had, for 2 years running, requests to make changes so that it would be a more workable system. And that was delayed. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And I have nothing bad to say about DOIT. I think that they were heroes of the pandemic. They really stepped up and made this state operate. But it's happened is that we have 3-year-old problems with our system. And some of them are really like ridiculous problems, and others are really operational problems. And we are a very unique agency, and the kinds of information we gather is very unique. And we've discovered since that there are a couple of software packages that are made specifically for offices like ours, that are really functional in not only gathering data, but also prompting us in how we manage our cases, making sure that we keep up with them, and then holding things so that we can report out on really significant information that informs how the system is operating. So we have actually been trying to discuss this with DOIT, and it's to a point where they're just not available because of the pandemic. But before then, you know, we weren't really, you know, it's just not a priority in such a huge undertaking of this whole system-wide expansion that they're doing with all the other agencies. So we thought it would be most expedient. So this is the 3rd year. So now we start to pay for the Salesforce system. And so what we've done in the budget is subtracted what we would pay DOIT for the Salesforce and put it towards a new system.
Makes all the sense in the world. So you were fine as a beta, but now that it's time to roll out.
Someone
Other
has to take the first plunge.
You took all the arrows.
We did.
Question, Representative DeVers.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. O'Neill. This is Representative Ppe. I have a question, and please excuse my ignorance. I'm not a parent, but what are the ages that you deal with for child advocate? I don't know if they're preteen or teens or what. And I apologize for my ignorance.
No, that's no problem. Thank you so much for the question. I think that a lot of people know about the Office of the Child Advocate when they have children, and more so when they have problems. So the Office of the Child Advocate oversees all children's services that the state offers or arranges. So that would include children from birth to 18. We do actually serve some children who are older, who are still served by the system up to age 20 or 21 or so. We wouldn't drop them if they needn't. And those are children who would be or should be served by, say, child protection, who may be involved in juvenile justice. And now with the expansion of our statute, we expect that we'll get cases involving education, access to special education, children who need developmental disability services. And already we're getting very, very busy in the area of mental and behavioral health. You know, we're following and working hard on the issue of children who are stuck in emergency rooms seeking acute psychiatric care.
Thank you. Dr. O'Neill, just a follow up. In cases, and I don't know what the reverse, you know, how you handle this, in cases where teenagers, due to substance abuse or whatever, end up abusing their parents, which department actually takes care of that?
Thank you for the question. So there's a couple answers for that. You know, if the child has some kind of problem that the parents aren't attending to, that could be child protection. If the police are called because the child has assaulted the parent, that's juvenile justice. Both of those are under DCYF, the Division for Children, Youth, and Families. But that also sounds as though the child needs behavioral health services, which would be under the Division of Children's Behavioral Health in DHHS. And that's where the Office of the Child Advocate can act as sort of a conduit to make sure that all agencies are working to make sure that that child gets their needs met.
Thank you, Dr. O'Neill. I'm glad that you work as a conduit as well.
Yeah,
that makes things a lot easier for everybody involved. Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? Well, we can look, you have an extensive budget. It's on page 134 of our budget books. And it goes 134 and partway down 135. We have other departments that come in that have 130 pages, so.
Yes, thank you for that, sir.
This one, we can catch it in one.
We are a heavy lift.
Any questions on the budget?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Representative Walls. I'm not sure you can see when I raise my hand.
Oh, sorry.
Well, that's okay. I'm not afraid to speak up. So, Maura, actually, everybody that's coming in here seems to be on a 15% cut of general funds. You're not. Your budget looks like you actually go up in your budget. It is, you've said what you need. You need a new system, you need a car, and you need a new person. But other than, it looks like, in all honesty, you kind of came out of this budget process unscathed compared to everybody else. Am I reading this correctly?
Thank you for that question. I don't think we would ever say we're unscathed because we are so small. We have such a broad mandate. But I believe we made a good argument because of the statute change and the mandate that expanded. I think the governor took that into consideration and allowed us to have, actually in the governor's budget, he gave us a new half-time position, a permanent half-time position. So we're actually asking for that half-time position. We asked for that to be a full-time position, and we asked for yet another position as well. And then the vehicle is, we believe, a cost-saving measure because we do have a great deal of travel ahead of us once the pandemic is over. No one has been inside any of the facilities where children are placed. There's currently almost 400 children who are institutionalized around the state and around the country. Those children who are out of state are only visited by DCYF once every 3 months. So people aren't inspecting the buildings where they are. They're not making sure that the children feel connected. And in the last budget deliberations, we had received a mandate to be sure that we were visiting children from this committee in Division 3. And because of what happened with the budget veto, and then we were down a staff we weren't able to fill, and then the pandemic happened, we haven't been able to achieve that. So we anticipate a great deal of travel this coming year.
Do you have any unfunded positions?
No, we had one position that was frozen that just opened up, and we're just interviewing to fill that next week. Hopefully that will be filled soon. So that would bring us up to 5 unclassified positions, and 5 unclassified now. We're asking for a 6th, Karen, is that correct? Sometimes
once we fill that position, we would have 4 unclassified
4,
positions.
yes, and so we're asking for a 5th. And there's also, I should point out, there's an inconsistency in line 11 for the unclassified position, where there's different amounts. When we were threatened in the early negotiations with the budget, we were threatened with having to cut staff. And we noted that the salary for the child advocate was listed in the budget as much higher than what's actually been paid. And so we took out that difference. And so now it looks as though there's actually a cut in pay in the next biennium, where we just kept it steady because it hasn't been increased in 3 years.
Well, thank you. I just say I am a huge fan of you and your office and the work you do, and I have been since you arrived. And I am immensely relieved to see that you are being as supported as you are by the governor. It's because so much else has been cut, and this is, I'm sure you feel like you're being deprived in some ways. Every office head does, but let me tell you that compared to what we've seen elsewhere in this budget, I'm just relieved. And I know you're a small office; it would have a huge impact. But still, you're coming out in much better shape than I was fearful of. So I'm very happy for you.
Thank you, Representative Waltz, for your kind words. And we are very grateful. And we do believe that that we're able to play a role that's significant. And we think, and the position that we're filling next week is a data analyst position. And so we think that we're going to be able to demonstrate a lot more to folks with that person and their ability to show the cost savings across the children's system that we're able to impact with the work that we do. So we're looking forward to being able to do that. And we very much appreciate the task before you. We don't take it lightly when we're asking for funds, because we know that you have a lot of difficult decisions to make. We appreciate that. I don't want your job. You can have it.
That's okay. I don't want yours. So
Okay, we're even then.
Other questions from the committee? Well, I think that kind of wraps it up. We have no additional questions, and you seem satisfied with your budget. We certainly are. So at this point,
Chairman, I would move that we approve the budget.
okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll have a roll call. Okay, all right, we have a motion to approve the budget. If you're in favor, you respond yes. If you're not in favor, you respond no. Will the clerk call the roll?
Okay. I'm sorry, Chairman Ober is absent. Excused, by the way. Vice Chairman,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Leishman, Representative Hatch,
Yes.
Representative Waltz.
Yes.
Okay, the vote is 6-0, Mr. Chairman, so it passes.
Okay, so your budget is passed this committee.
Mhm.
It will go to full finance.
Thank you all very much for your time and your consideration. I hope you all have a good day.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so we will be in recess until 10 o'clock.
Mr. Chair?
Tracy, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm
Representative.
sorry, Tracy. I'll be gone for about an hour, just an FYI or so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to bring in the representatives from the Board of Tax and Land Appeals now.
Okay.
And we have Michelle LeBrun and Stelma.
Can you hear me
Okay.
now? I think I was still muted.
I know we can hear you.
Okay, good morning. My name is Michelle LeBrun. I'm the Chair of the Board of Tax and Land Appeals. Also in attendance is our clerk, Ann Stelmack, who's available should there be specific budgetary questions that she's better suited to respond to. We would like to thank you for allowing us to present our fiscal 22-23 budget. The funding split for our budget is 90% general and 10% highway. I'm sure most of you know what we do, but in the event that there are new members, I'll just briefly explain. Our enabling statute is RSA 71B5, so the board's jurisdiction is to hear and determine all matters involving questions of taxation, appeals by municipalities of their equalized valuation that is determined by the Department of Revenue Administration, just compensation and eminent domain takings pursuant to RSA 498A and all matters related to reassessments by municipalities. Parties are entitled to due process and timely relief. Many represent themselves. We've heard quite a few lately of parties that have appeared pro se to avoid the cost of counsel, but we certainly also hear a lot with attorneys present. The board's budget is primarily a maintenance budget with additional prioritized needs at the request of DOIT and administrative services. The administrative services is rent and DOIT is the shared cost expense. With respect to the questions posed by the agency, we are not seeking any full-time or part-time staff. No positions were eliminated by the governor's budget requirements. And at this time, the agency is adequately staffed to complete all of our work that's assigned pursuant to the statutes. There is nothing found in the statutes that the board would wish to have eliminated. And as far as House Bill 2, we looked through it and we didn't see anything that applied to the board. So with that, we're requesting that you approve the budget as submitted. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Questions from the committee? Okay. Representative Verge.
Yeah, Representative Verge here. I have a question and it involves preambulation. I mean, town borders and whatnot. That is an ongoing problem. And every time we want to solve it, we can't. And the towns are required to do that every 10 years to walk the borders. Is that something that you can address or involved in?
We are typically not involved in that unless there is a dispute and a property is located on a border. But no, we are not.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the division? Anything? Pretty straightforward budget. Again, some agencies have 130 pages and yours is nice and compact. Well, with no further questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'm just
Representative
looking
Walls.
more closely at this. So you go up by about 200 and, I'm sorry, let me get the numbers right. 20, 40. Oh, I guess it's only $50,000. I have no question. The increase is so small. It's de minimis. I have no question.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, that would be nice. Okay, we have a motion to accept the budget as submitted. Do we have a second? Okay, we will have a roll call for the Board of Tax and Land Appeals budget. If you're in favor, you say yes. If you're not in favor, you say no. Clerk will call the roll.
Okay. If the Madam Chairman is excused, Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch is excused. Representative Walls.
Yes.
So the motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Well, that was short and sweet. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
We'll see
very
you-
much. I appreciate your time.
All right, and we will be stand adjourned until 10:30.
Welcome, Commissioner. Thank you for coming.
Madam Chairman, we just lost all sound.
Also, one thing I've learned doing this is that we have absolutely no way to hold a remote house session, given the daily amount of complaints we have about sound and access to things. Can you hear us now? You shook her head, yes?
Yes,
Okay.
I can. Thank you.
Lindsay, do you have any staff members that you would like to join you remotely via Zoom?
It looks like they've both been added, Carolyn.
Okay, great. So we'd like to turn this over to you. And we're gonna not only go through what you gave us, but walk through some of your budgets. And we have some questions. And with my committee members, we have great questions. So you're gonna get some really tough questions. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you for having me today and allowing me the opportunity to present the fiscal year 2022 and 2023 operating budget from the Department of Revenue Administration. With me today virtually are Assistant Commissioner Carolyn Lear and Business Administrator Shelley Verlon.
Madam Chair, can we ask the commissioner to turn on her microphone, please?
Oh,
Pull it close to you as well. One of the problems we have in the room, I'll tell you quite honestly, and there's no way to stop it, but you see this lovely piece of equipment here and you can hear it. There's a pair to it in the back and the fans run all the time. I'm sure you can hear the noise. That ambient noise also goes across all of our mics. So we're trying to pull the mics as close together as possible. So thank you for doing that.
will do. Hopefully Representative Walls, is that better?
I think she said yes, much better maybe.
Thank you.
Okay. The mission of the DRA is to fairly and efficiently administer the tax laws of the state of New Hampshire, collecting the proper amount of taxes due while incurring the least cost to taxpayers in a manner that merits the highest degree of public confidence in our integrity. Further, we provide prompt and constructive assistance to the municipal units of government in matters of budget, finance, and the appraisal of real estate. Together, we have developed a thoughtful operating budget that will provide the resources for our team to administer the tax laws of our state for another 2 fiscal years in a manner that is consistent with this mission. As the primary revenue collection agency, we are certainly aware of the current revenue picture and have worked hard to produce a budget that's consistent with the targets provided. In fiscal year 2020, the DRA collected $2.2 billion in state revenue with a total expense of less than $19.4 million. Some of those expenses are for activities unrelated to revenue collections, such as local assessments and state aid. When those unrelated costs are accounted for, our cost of collection is 0.75%. The information included with this testimony explains how we're able to build the biennial budget that continues to be an unparalleled return on state tax dollar investment. We look forward to working with you in developing this budget. Next, Madam Chair, I'm going to move to the questions that you provided.
Thank you.
And our answers, certainly. So, what new full-time staff has been added to your budget? There are no new positions, general funded or otherwise, that were added to the DRA operating budget. What new part-time staff have been added? There are no new part-time staff positions added to the budget. What positions had to be eliminated in order to meet the governor's budget requirements? We have 7 unfunded positions that have been removed from the DRA operating budget. We've included the division, position number, labor grade, title, and cost for each position in the chart provided in the letter. 4 of those positions are in the Taxpayer Services Division, which help to timely process tax returns and documents. I would note that the Clerk 3 position is currently unfunded in our current budget and remains unfunded in the governor's recommended budget. There is a municipal accounts auditor in the Municipal and Property Division. That person provides technical assistance to municipal officials and establishes property tax rates. Lastly, there are 2 multi-state tax auditors in the Audit Division. They primarily audit large multinational corporations for compliance with New Hampshire's tax laws. These 2 positions were new in our fiscal year 2021 budget. However, they were not filled prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and then we went into the hiring freeze. So those positions remain unfilled. The estimated revenue for those positions was $0 in fiscal year 20 as they are training, and $1.5 million in fiscal year 2021. How will work done by these positions be accomplished without them? The workload's been distributed among the funded positions within each division to ensure each division meets their respective missions, as well as meeting the overall mission of the department. Is your agency adequately staffed to complete all work assigned to your agency? Yes, we are. What things are you doing found in state law that could be eliminated and why? GRA runs a pretty lean operation. We don't have any programs that could be eliminated. And were there any priorities that were not funded? All of our prioritized needs were funded in the governor's operating budget. Lastly, sections of HB2, we have noted that there are a number of sections that apply to the tax laws which we administer. However, there are no changes that would impact our operating budget, and we can administer the proposed changes to the tax laws within our current operating budget. So I don't have any concerns with what is included in House Bill 2.
Questions from the division before we move on? Representative Leishman.
Thank you. Good to see you. So, as you recall, during the last budget session.
Scoot your microphone close to you. Remember, this hybrid world is not working well for meetings.
So 2 years ago, it was very important to us, as you recall, to get those 2 auditors to audit those out-of-state larger companies. And it seems to me, I know that they're not included, and you mentioned what, $1.5 million is a minimum they would bring in. Would you advocate that we really support those 2 positions to get that additional funding? Are you still happy not, I mean, you're not happy, but not having those 2 positions seems like a foolish thing for us to not do.
Sure, thank you for the question. Certainly the additional bodies would assist us with generating the revenue. I will note during the presentation, we have a high number of vacancies at this point, given the hiring freeze. So we have unfilled positions that are similar to those multi-state auditors. We have unfilled positions that are included in the operating budget that we would hope to fill during the biennium. If the additional positions were added, we would certainly do our best to fill those positions as well. But again, we were trying to be mindful of the targets that were provided to us.
Further
Follow
question. Thanks, Madam Chair. So how many vacant funded positions do you have?
It's a great question.
You kind of walked into the question, but.
Sure. And I was going to go over this when we move on to the presentation,
Okay.
but we currently have 25 vacant positions out of 156 full-time funded positions. So that's a vacancy rate of about 16%.
Wow, that's pretty significant. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Well, the corollary to that, have you been given permission to hire any of those 500 since the hiring freeze has been right?
We are currently recruiting for 3 positions. We believe that we can fill those positions and still meet our lapse requirements. I am hopeful actually that some of those positions will be internal promotions. And so we might be able to hire further beyond that and kind of move people up through the organization.
Okay, why don't we continue with your presentation?
Sure.
Seeing no other questions at the moment.
Great. So slide 2 of the presentation is just our mission statement. I read that during the opening remarks, so I will skip that. Slide 3, this is just a general organizational chart just for folks to understand what we do at the Department of Revenue. We have our administration unit, which includes all of our back office functions. We have our audit division, which does exactly that. There are primary auditors for tax compliance within the organization. Our collections division pursues unpaid tax bills that are beyond their appeal process. Our taxpayer services division handles all routine interactions with the department. So they're our primary processing unit for tax returns and tax forms that we receive. They also man our call center. So anytime you call into the DRA and you speak with our lovely call center representatives, they're in the taxpayer services division. And this division also does all of our account maintenance. So if you called in wanting to move a payment, that sort of routine maintenance is done within taxpayer services. So if you're not under audit and we're not looking to collect from you, your interactions are primarily with our taxpayer services division. Lastly, our municipal and property division, those are the folks that set the tax rates, review the assessments for our municipal folks. They also administer the utility property tax, the timber tax, and the gravel tax. On slide 4, I've provided a big picture overview of our fiscal year 22-23 budget compared to our fiscal year 21 budget. So you'll see I have broken it out by general funds, education trust funds, and agency income. Our fiscal year 2022 budget is just over $1 million less than our fiscal year 2021 budget for general funds. We're about $950,000 less in education trust funds, and our agency income remains flat throughout the biennium. In fiscal year 2023, we're about $200,000 less in general funds, than $950,000 less in education trust fund, and flat funding for agency income. So you will see that the difference for the total budget for fiscal year 2022 is just under 2 million compared to fiscal year 21, and just under 1.2 million or 1.1 million for fiscal year 23 as compared to 21. So that's an 8.5% reduction in fiscal year 22 and a 5.4% reduction in fiscal year 23. At the bottom, you will see that our position count remains static. As I mentioned, we have not added any new positions. But as I did note, current funded position count has decreased from 156 full-time classified and unclassified positions in fiscal year 21 to 150 positions in fiscal years 22 and 23. Our general fund operating budget is 75% salary and benefits. We are Department of People, not things or programs. All of the positions that we propose to unfund are currently vacant. And funding in our budget does include the following positions that are currently vacant but would generate revenue. So you'll see there's about $700,000 in fiscal year 22 and $3.2 million in fiscal year 23 that would be generated by currently vacant positions that are funded in the fiscal year 22 and 23 budget. And we have provided, Madam Chair, those numbers to House Ways and Means, so they are aware of those anticipated revenues.
And just so you know, I did ask Chairman Major and House Ways and Means, did he include this funding in his revenue estimates the House voted on? The answer to that was no, because it was not current law, and current law had them unfunded. If I go back to the questions you answered, the position numbers are in those questions when we went through before, right?
Yes, they are correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to slide 5, some things to note about our operating budget. So our DOIT services and positions are all maintained. The DOIT budget costs are steady over the biennium, but they are reduced by approximately 8.7% compared to fiscal year 21. Funding for vendors such as our equalization and tax rate setting vendor and temporary keying services are included. I have noted where those live within the budget. Equalization and tax rate setting contract amount has been reduced to reflect updated contract pricing. That can be found on page 159. And our temporary keying services contract amount was reduced to reflect actual costs over the past few years. As more and more documents are coming in electronically, we don't have the need for those keying services. So we have kind of right-sized that appropriation. The budget also maintains operational capabilities as we anticipate adjusting resources for our new RIMS project. However, we did eliminate our RIMS consulting services, and that is found on page 153. The reason for that is we had started those services with our capital budget appropriation. Those services have gone very well, and we have come in under budget. So we're able to continue with the services without needing the funding in our operating budget. Other reductions throughout the budget include in our out-of-state travel, employee training, overtime, and current expense. These were due to meeting the targets provided by the governor. The division director's business office and other managers have worked very hard to budget conservatively and accurately, requesting funds for true needs and not wants. Moving on to slide 6. I wanted to highlight the low and moderate property tax relief. So this is funded through the Education Trust Fund, and it is property tax relief program related to the statewide education property tax. We have funded this at $800,000 in both fiscal year 22 and 23. This is another example of kind of right sizing the appropriation. I've included the program costs over the past 3 years, and you'll see that the costs of the program have decreased. So we adjusted the funding within the budget from the Education Trust Fund to reflect what we believe to be the true cost of the program. So we didn't want to over appropriate in this instance. Next on slide 7, one of my favorite topics, flood control.
Oh, good, because that's one of ours too. And we were going to ask questions, so you could see those questions coming.
Yes. So our budget includes $887,000, $256,000 from the general fund and $630,000 from other funds in fiscal year 22, and the same amount in fiscal year 23, and that can be found on page 160. This program reimburses cities and towns for lost property taxes resulting from property acquired in the acquisition of land by the United States for navigation and flood control. So these are the Merrimack River Valley Compact and the Connecticut River Valley Compacts. The budget does assume that Massachusetts will reimburse their share of 70% of the Merrimack River Valley Compact, as well as 50% of the Connecticut River Valley Compact, and that Connecticut will reimburse their share of 40% of the Connecticut River Valley Compact. As you likely know, there's a long history of Massachusetts not paying its obligation timely or sufficiently for the Merrimack River Valley Compact. There is currently just shy of $3 million currently outstanding for fiscal years 15 through 20. Payments up to fiscal year 14 have been settled in an agreement with Massachusetts. The governor is authorized to draw a warrant for the payment of such reimbursements out of money in the treasury that is not otherwise appropriated. We estimate that the warrant that will be issued for fiscal year 21 is just over $600,000. I would note the governor's office and the attorney general's office are very much aware of this issue, and it is my understanding that they are working on trying to resolve these amounts due from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Absolutely.
So thanks for your thorough presentation on that. Last night, I received an email from Ann Rice at the Attorney General's office. We had inquired earlier in the day about the status of the flood control. And she pointed out that they're working diligently. However, they're still waiting for arbitrators to be appointed and has no idea when that might happen. So the likelihood is, you correctly stated in her email, she also said it's been since 2014. So it certainly doesn't look like we're going to get any of that money soon, Madam Chair. I think I sent you a copy of her email, but I think you should probably know that it doesn't look good. But thanks for your presentation.
That was my understanding as well, that we're working on it, but it's not maybe going to be anytime
How
soon.
can we bring this to a final resolution? It's my understanding there could be a one-time settlement.
Right, and that is what we did settle up to 14. And so there, I think, could be the opportunity to settle for the amounts due from 15 through 20 and likely 21. But the best way to do that would probably be a question directed rightly at the Attorney General's office.
Can you ask Ann Edwards since you started that email train? I think part of the problem in Massachusetts right now is they don't have any more money than we have.
Right.
Plus they sent home all the workers who work out of state, and New Hampshire is one of the states suing them because of their state law that said, if you're working at home, you don't have to pay taxes. So now everybody's working at home because you locked them out.
Right.
Okay.
On slide 8, I just did want to give a couple updates on the priorities from our fiscal year 2021 budget. The first is what the result, or first is our new revenue information system, or RIMS. As you may know, DRA received a $30,160,000 capital appropriation through general funds and other funds to replace our old software system. We entered into a contract with Fast Enterprises on October 31st, 2018 to implement the commercial off-the-shelf software Gentax. That cost is just under $30 million. Rollout 1, we have 3 rollouts. Rollout 1 went live on October 28th, 2019 with the meals and rentals tax, Medicaid enhancement tax, and nursing facility quality assessment. Rollout 2 went live in the middle of a pandemic on October 5th, 2020, with our largest tax types, the business profits tax, business enterprise tax, interest and dividends tax, and communication services tax. And then rollout 3 is on schedule to go live on August 9th, 2021, with our remaining tax types, the real estate transfer tax, tobacco tax, utility property tax, gravel tax, timber tax, railroad, and private car taxes. Rollout 1 and rollout 2 were very successful. As I mentioned, even in the middle of a pandemic, rollout 2 was on time, on budget. The team adapted very quickly to being remote. They all left the office and have been working at home ever since. And they worked very hard, and we've been very successful. The current contract includes 4 years of support and maintenance on the system after rollout 3 with optional extensions. Those will be paid by capital funds. The optional extensions, we will need to start working those funds into our operating budget.
Representative Emmerich, you have a question.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question.
Pull that close.
The,
Thank you.
does this mean if you're paying quarterly interest and dividends payments, you can do it online now?
That is correct.
Okay,
You
thank
can
you.
do that online. You're also able to create an account and log in and see your account. So if you don't remember what you paid last quarter, in the past, you'd have to call DRA and have us look up your account and confirm for you your payment. You'll be able to do that all on your own now, just like you can with your own bank account.
Okay,
So
thank you.
there's great taxpayer functionality with a web-facing portal.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And then lastly, on page 9, the RIMS health assessments. I mentioned this was a cost that was previously included in our operating budget. It was a prioritized need from last budget of $340,000 to assist DRA with periodic project health assessments. Barry Dunn is our vendor for that. As I mentioned, the assessments have gone very well, and so we don't need the operating budget funding. We've been able to cover all of the assessments all the way through rollout 3 within our capital budget. They have completed 6 project health assessments so far, all of which gave the project an overall score of a 5 or outstanding with no actions or changes recommended. So we really have had a very successful project with RIMS. Lastly, I'll just mention, and we have touched upon this already, in the final fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, there were additional positions in the audit division that were included. There was an in-state and multi-entity auditors funded for both 20 and 21. There were 2 multi-state auditors for half of fiscal year 20 and all of 21, and then an additional multi-state auditor funded just for fiscal year 2021. All of these positions may remain unfilled. By the time the budget finally passed, the positions were generated within the system. We were coming into the January, February timeframe, pandemic hit, and we were unable to hire. As we mentioned and talked about, there are 2 multi-state auditor positions that are unfunded in 22 and 23, as I previously noted. That is all I have, Madam Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner, is there anything in your line item budget that you would like to talk about, or that is changed or beyond what your presentation was? And again, you're like most of our state agencies for this biennium. You have cut positions, cut spending, and are moving forward with belt tightening given the pandemic.
That is an accurate statement. I have noted for you in the presentation what I believe are all of the large fluctuations that you would see in the budget. As I mentioned, there are a few other instances where you'll see current expense or employee training has changed, and that is, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, the belt tightening. But the large changes should be referenced in the presentation. So I think we have covered most of that.
Representative Leishman.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So either you or John Beardmore prepared for us several years back the breakdown of the flood control towns and the payments. So what the state would be sending to, say, Hopkinton or Peterborough or whatever. Could you do that again?
Sure.
For that $616,000 and what that breakdown would be?
Sure. Happy to
Thanks.
do that.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, and I think that's important. Commissioner, before we got started, I don't see any other questions right now, but I had asked a question about PPE loans I think everybody in the legislature has probably heard from one or more constituents about PPE loans. And I know you said you'd send me something in writing, and I would like it. But I would also, I think, like to talk about that a little bit while we have the public on, because we do have two representatives at home who did not hear that conversation. We also have a few attendees. So when we started, what I said to the commissioner was, I'm a small business. I got $100,000 in a PPE loan. And it became both a debit and a credit because I had a loan and then I had a credit because I had the 100,000. But then I applied for the loan forgiveness. I was given the loan forgiveness. That loan now turned into only a credit and a grant. So I no longer had a loan that I had to pay back. So my debit went away, but I still had a grant of $100,000. And my question was, what is the tax implication on that? And this is apparently two-part. There's something the feds are doing, which is above and beyond what the state is doing, as well as what the state is doing. So Commissioner, if you could just run through that, because I heard Representative Griffin, Representative Leishman were both interested. And I have a feeling that our two representatives at home might have the same interest, and we have some time.
Sure, I'm happy to go through that. So yes, Madam Chair. So let's assume that there is a PPP loan of $100,000. If and when that loan is forgiven, you're correct, it becomes a grant. For state tax purposes, that $100,000 is going to be included in gross income. Any expenses that were paid with that grant, and again, PPP is payroll protection, there are likely wages that were paid with that money, any other normal operating business expenses to keep your business open and operating, those expenses are deductible. So you would see $100,000 come in gross income, and then likely $100,000 being deducted for wages and normal operating business expenses. That means the result impact to your net income to which you would apply the business profits tax rate would be zero. So long as the amounts were spent on deductible expenses, there would be no business profits tax implications. There would be no business profits tax due. That's at the state level. Now let's talk about the federal treatment. There was a lot of back and forth with how this was going to be treated federally, but the outcome was that $100,000 grant, although any other grant would be included in gross income, that $100,000 PPP grant, the feds have said you don't include that in gross income. So it's not going in your gross income. But you can still deduct the expenses that you used or that you paid for with that money. So if you spent the $100,000 on wages, those wages are still deductible. So that is an additional benefit and will further reduce the taxes that you owe at the federal level. So again, it's a benefit that the federal government has provided to those folks that have received a PPP loan. Senate Bill 3 is currently in the Senate, has passed out of the Ways and Means Committee, has not yet gone to the floor. Senate Bill 3 would have the state following the federal treatment, where that additional benefit would be provided to PPP, to businesses that received PPP and that loan was forgiven. So those that have PPP grants would have this beneficial tax treatment. That's essentially what Senate Bill 3 does. And as I mentioned, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to share with the committee, I'll send to the committee, there is a tax information release or a TIR that's available on our website that walks through this. We've also put out a press release to help get this information out about the difference in the federal and the state tax treatment.
Thank you. There are questions on that? Representative Walls, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I am. I just did. Thank you. So you talked about the BPT. What about the BET? Is there an effect on that?
So the BET, if the PPP loan was paid, used to pay wages, those wages would be subject to the BET.
Thank you.
Does Senate Bill 3?
Senate Bill 3 does not address BET.
Okay.
It only addresses BPT.
I guess I have a follow-up.
Representative
Julie,
Leishman, please.
So now what about the Main Street grants or?
I thought you were going to ask that next.
That's a great question. This
Thanks.
treatment is only for PPP. It is not for Main Street grants. It's not for the South grants. It's not for any other grants. This treatment is only for PPP. And so this beneficial treatment would only be available to those that received PPP. And we know that there may be a lot of reasons why a business didn't receive PPP. And so there is a fairness issue here. It would only be benefiting those that received PPP. And if your business did not receive PPP, you would follow the normal tax treatment. But again, if the amounts are spent on deductible expenses, there really should be no impact. There should really be no tax impact.
Any other questions?
Can I just to follow up? to be
Representative
clear,
Walsh, yes.
When you say there should be no taxable impact, does that mean in the BET too? Because that they would be able to deduct the wages that they paid, so there's no taxable impact there?
No, sorry, I'm speaking about BPT.
Only.
Only BPT, right? So the grants would come in gross income. Any amount spent on deductible expenses would be deducted out, and therefore the impact for BPT would be minimal, so long as the amounts were spent on deductible expenses.
That was how I initially understood it. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't convoluting things. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Yeah. Busy, very busy.
I am inclined to fund those positions and get the revenue. And I have already emailed while we're sitting here, LBA, and asked them to do that. So Lindsay, we're not going to take any action on this budget at this time.
Okay.
I don't know when we will get our amendment, but
Thank you.
you
Madam
heard
Chair.
what we said.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, I want to thank you for coming this morning, spending time with us. I want to thank you for being so well prepared, and
Thank you. It's nice to see everybody in person.
yes, yes, we're very happy that vaccines are out and we've started getting vaccinated, and
Wonderful.
it's even nicer that the CDC is recognizing that there is a positive impact, because I have a little bit of a breathing problem. And so getting a mask off every now and then when I'm with people who are vaccinated has been a blessing.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't even know if I have a at 11. Okay. We're right on time. So we're going to now move to page 164, which is community development. And I think we have the Director of Community Development now with us as a panelist. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, this is Katie Easterly Marte, the Executive Director of the Community Development Finance Authority. Thank you for having me.
We're happy you're here. So what page are we on for? We're on 164. If you're trying to follow us at home and you have a budget book and you just don't know what to do with all the stuff, page 164. Katie, thank you for coming, and please jump into your budget presentation for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity to address you regarding our one line in the State Treasury Department's budget for fiscal years 22 and 23, which is New Hampshire's required match for the administrating the federal community development block grant program. CDFA is a independent nonprofit organization, and as such, our board is appointed by the governor and council. As a state authority, we are among a handful of unique entities that work in partnership with the state and federal initiative to strengthen New Hampshire's communities through the distribution of resources to municipalities, nonprofits, and businesses. I am here to request a continued match funding from the state of New Hampshire in the amount of $400,000 over the next biennium. The request of $200,000 per year represents the federally required match of state funds towards program administration for New Hampshire's annual allocation of federal block grant resources under the Cdbg program. Under the state Cdbg program, state awards grants to smaller units of general local government that develop and preserve decent affordable housing, provide services to the most vulnerable in our communities, and create and retain jobs. Annually, each state, New Hampshire, and we do this in partnership for New Hampshire, develops the funding priorities and criteria for selected projects. The Department of Housing and Urban Development uses a formula to allocate these resources, and if funding levels remain similar to years in past, we anticipate that New Hampshire's total Cdbg allocation over the next biennium will be approximately $18.6 million. CDFA provides the state with exceptionally cost-efficient system for providing these resources to communities. CDFA is financially self-sufficient and relies on fees from the programs we administer, plus this state match to meet our budget needs. The Cdbg program is focused on the development of viable, sustainable, and communities by providing decent housing, suitable living environments, expanding economic opportunities, and the Cdbg program is focused primarily on low and moderate income people. Cdbg projects in New Hampshire have leveraged tens of millions of dollars in matching capital. All eligible New Hampshire municipalities and counties have the opportunity to access up to $1.5 million in resources to support projects annually. In addition to requests for emergency and planning resources, we support a lot of planning activities that lead to these important community-driven efforts that local leaders and community members say are necessary within their municipality or region. CDFA staff administer competitive grant rounds throughout the year. All applications undergo extensive programmatic and financial review by CDFA. In addition, projects that meet all necessary criteria are voted on by an independent 11-member Community Development Advisory Committee, and then confirmed by CDFA's 11-member Board of Directors. All of the 22 individuals, New Hampshire citizens, who review and approve these projects are appointed by the Governor and Council and represent a number of different sectors and communities involved in community development. Once CDFA's board recommends funding, the proposed awards are sent to the Governor and Council, Executive Council for final approval. Federal funds come with significant requirements. CDFA's professional staff train and provide technical assistance to our grantees throughout the process, including in pre-application, application, and implementation phases of the projects. We're really happy that communities of all sizes access the Cdbg funds. We work closely with partners to find creative solutions and offer guidance on project development, as well as to ease the burden of compliance and protect the investment of the taxpayer dollars. In calendar years 2018 and 2019, funds from the state's Cdbg program have improved the lives of 2,455 people through public facility improvements and 613 people through emergency grants, created or retained 98 livable wage jobs with benefits, and created or rehabilitated 260 affordable and workforce housing units. We've also provided technical assistance to 602 very small businesses, and those small businesses have been able to grow their wages, and actually 90% of those involved in that program have moved from being low income to now their family is no longer low income. And a testament to the importance of this investment in the lives of low income people. CDFA respectfully requests the state of New Hampshire continue to provide the federally required match, a total of $400,000 for the 2022 and 2023 state fiscal years. By doing so, we can deploy approximately $18.66 million of resources into New Hampshire's community economic development projects that are critical to so many communities. I thank you for considering this request, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from the members? Seeing none, this budget is, the only thing it has in it is the $200,000 match, which is flat funded. There, we do not pay staff for benefits or anything else. And so this is, I think Katie has explained very clearly why she needs the funds. I believe we could probably approve this budget if you guys are in agreement. Representative Emmerich moves to approve Community Development Block Grant. Representative Griffin seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion? When the clerk is ready, he may call the roll.
Okay, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman? Yes. The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch is excused absent. Representative Walls?
Yes, and I just want to say I wish everything had that same kind of rate of return as this. It's extraordinary.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam, the vote is 6-0, unanimous.
That motion passes unanimously. Katie, thank you for spending the morning with us. And thank you for being so well prepared.
Thank you so much. I wish you the rest of your day.
LBA, I would like to put up amendment number 2021-0673H proposed by Representative Leishman. And would you tell me when it is available so I know that our members at home have access to it?
Yes, we'll look for it right now.
Thank you.
It's up now, Mike?
It will be shortly.
Okay, just tell me when it's up. We're not going to start till it's up. No hurry.
It's up, Madam Chair. You should see it.
Okay, I do. We don't, I actually don't, well, I guess it's okay if it's on the screen. So Mary Beth, you have it at home now. You can get it from the DRA website as well. I'm going to turn this over to Representative Leishman. This is an amendment to HB2. Representative Leishman.
Madam Chair or Nancy, can we have this zoomed in some? Thank you.
Yeah,
Even
a little bit better.
would be great.
About a little bit better. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And I will turn very quickly to House Bill 2. I believe this is
Section 9.
looking for the page 6. So this changes the language that you'll see presently on Section 9, where it says the Fiscal Committee of the General Court may approve changes to the above plan design cost sharing provisions consistent with RSA 21-I:3. I found the language a little problematic. If you go to the Judicial Council, there's similar language to my amendment. So what I'm looking to do in line 7, starting after the comma 1 or I, which is part of the RSA. Again, everyone see that on line 7, are permitted with the prior approval of the Fiscal Committee of the General Court. So I just think it clears up the language a little bit from the existing Section 9.
So the purpose of this is to ensure that there is no confusion about the role of the Fiscal Committee of the General Court.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Any discussion by any member? Seeing none, Representative Leishman, might I assume that you move adoption of Amendment 2021-0673H?
Thanks, Madam Chair, I would.
Representative Emmerich seconds the motion to adopt Amendment 2021-0673H. When the clerk is ready, he may call the roll.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch is excused. Representative Walls?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is 6-0.
The motion passes 6-0. Can I ask that LBA would remove this motion, this amendment, and you would post amendment 2021-0635H, which is the amendment for the banking commissioner, which we discussed when he was here.
Madam Chair, what section of House Bill 2 is that amending?
You'll see it when it comes up.
Thank you.
I'm passing out paperwork.
I believe that's a new section
Yes, at the end.
that's being added.
Thank you.
So this would effectively be, I have to open my HB2. I think the last section is very long.
Can you read the, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can you? read
The last
number?
section would be Representative Walls. Let me answer one of your questions at a time. This would be section 287 because this is a new section added at the end.
The
And
amendment?
Nancy, when you get that up, Representative Walls will be able to see the number and the verbiage.
I'm sorry, can you just read the amendment number again, please?
2021-0635H.
I believe I have it on the screen, but
Yes,
once I
you do.
share the screen, I can't see it.
Oh, terrific.
How's the size look?
Looks good. All right, this is the section that Mr. Little discussed with us in depth, that public deposit investment pool where he felt like he had a conflict of interest because he was supposed to be protecting and then it looked like he was working kind of against the people he was supposed to be protecting. And he proposed this language, which we discussed at the time, and asked that it be added to HB2 as an amendment in order to provide proper protection for the banking commissioner. It also allows him to charge appropriately so that the customers that he's supposed to be protecting are not paying for it, but that the public pool is paying for the expenses. Yes. You can go ahead. Representative Leishman, Representative Emmerich moves the adoption of Amendment 2021-0635H. Representative Leishman seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion?
So Madam Chair.
Representative Walls?
To be clear, this simply changes how it's paid for. All we're doing is moving how this is paid for. Am I correct?
That is correct. If you recall, Commissioner Little did not have a way to appropriately have the public deposit investment pool pay for the cost of his involvement, and instead it was being charged to his customers. So he feels that this is a fairer situation, provides the appropriate protection, allows him to do the job he's supposed to do and protect his customers.
I do recall his testimony. Thank you for recounting it.
When the clerk is ready, you may call the roll.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman? Yes. The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin? Yes. Representative Leishman? Yes. Representative Hatch has an excused absent. Representative Walls?
Yes. Representative Hatch is here, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't know you were here. Okay.
I'm in my car in the.
Okay,
lot,
you
but I
you
vote yay.
Yes, okay, great. The vote is 7-0 and unanimous, Madam Chairman.
Okay, that motion passes. We're going to turn to page 26 in HB2, section 57. And I'm asking LBA to bring up amendment number 2021-0706H. Thank you, LBA. For those of us looking at this amendment, Section 57 was proposed by the Department of Corrections and consisted of lines 12 through 17, plus the titles found in lines 6 through 11. In conversation with Commissioner Hanks, it was agreed that the titles in Section 1, and you notice it's only a few titles, could have in line 10, 15 years experience prior to the appointment. So it adds Section 1 with her blessing, leaves her language for the others to 10 years. Have I passed that out? No. Duh. You're right, I am. Just a moment, a failure of the chair to pass out the amendment to committee members. Yes, thank you. Representative Emmerich moves the adoption of 2021-0706H. Representative Griffin seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, when the clerk is ready, you may call the roll.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman, the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman? Representative Hatch?
Yay.
Representative Walls?
Yes.
It's unanimous, 7-0, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to turn to HB2, Section 52, page 24. The amendment number, which I am not going to hoard this time, is 2021-0739H.
Got it.
Okay, we now have it up on the screen. Thank you to LBA, who is providing an excellent service to us as always. Okay, this amendment makes one slight change to this section. On line 22, as proposed, the fund would have been non-lapsing and continuously appropriated. However, that language has been removed. One of the things we discovered when Governor Hassan vetoed the budget was that things that were continuously approved continued being spent without any input from the legislature. And I think on both sides last year, when Representative Lovejoy was chairing Division 1, and now we made an effort to take that out and leave things as it was. And I thought she was doing the right thing, and I followed along with that. Any questions on the amendment? Representative Emmerich moves the adoption of 2021-0739H. Representative Griffin seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Clerk, when you are ready for the roll call.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, Vice votes yes, Madam, I didn't have my mic on, I'm sorry. The Vice Chairman votes yes, the Clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch?
Yay.
Representative Walls?
Yes.
7-0, it's unanimous, Madam Chairman.
Motion is adopted unanimously. I had some sections in HB2. I wanted LBA to walk us through. Let's see if I can find the numbers I want. Because we have a few minutes. Peter, you're not ready with your amendment on section 19, is that correct? Is that like?
Nancy is working on it.
Nancy's working on that. Okay, we will avoid that till we get that. Could LBA help us with section 51, which we did not adopt, page 24? It is an agricultural section. And as I understand this, this amendment is only adding the division of pesticide control. Is that correct?
Yes, this is Mike Hoffman. Looking at section 51, the previous language said the fund shall only be used to support the purposes of the Integrated Pest Management Program. This adds and the Division of Pesticide Control. So it expands the availability of that fund to the division and not just the program.
That seems okay to me. Is there anybody have any problem with this? I can't remember why we didn't do it while the commissioner was here.
I just have a question.
Representative Walls, please.
I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to this, but it does jump at me, and that is integrated pest management suggests it may or may not include chemicals. Division of pesticide control, pesticides are chemicals. And I'm wondering if this is some sort of significant policy change of moving from organic to chemical control. I don't know.
It's the addition of a division for funding purposes, so that was taken out of general funds.
Okay, I didn't know the implications of it and if perhaps that's what this meant. And that's my only question.
Is there a motion to approve section? Representative Emmerich moves to approve section 51. Representative Griffin seconds the motion. Sir Clerk, it will be your turn when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch?
Yes.
Representative Walls?
Yes.
Motion 7-0 unanimous.
Motion passes. Could LBA walk us through section 55? I think Nancy, you told me this section was a little convoluted.
Yes.
Which is probably why we didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, I can try to screen share some of the information that I provided previously. You just bear with me.
The question was, I said, why don't we just delete this because they've got less money, the rooms and meals tax is down, we don't need it. And then it was like, well, what are we really deleting? Nancy started looking into the history. It was pretty convoluted. So I thought I'd have her share with us what she found before we do anything. We're not voting this today. This is just for us to think about.
This section's been suspended for a number of bienniums, and it credits a portion of the meals and rooms tax based on a budget from several bienniums ago where the rooms and meals tax was increased, and a portion of it, 3.15% of the total collection net of expenses, was allocated for the budget of this division. And each time we try to verify that amount, we kind of run into a brick wall. I've contacted a number of departments to verify what exactly that amount is. And it is net of expenses that the Department of Revenue has for collecting that tax, which is a calculation they have to do based on the amount of tax they collect for all taxes. There's a letter issued to the Treasury, and then that is shared with the department and the governor's office. And you see line items for this item in your budget, but there's also an expense for the Education Trust Fund that's backed out, debt service. And the calculation is done at the time before figures are audited. So it's kind of a moving target. And our calculations are somewhat dated. So I have asked the department that administers Division of Travel and Tourism to verify the numbers in the budget. I've asked the governor's office to verify that. They in turn have asked the Department of Administrative Services, and they're going to circle back to the Department of Revenue. The short answer is that this amount that was allocated, as I stated, based on a increase in the rooms and meals tax was done a number of years ago. As you well know, the governor has now proposed decreasing that tax. So this figure will be in flux again in the next biennium. And I am still working to get an accurate number for what the statutory amount for this division is, regardless of what appears in the budget. There is a firm calculation, but I have not received it yet.
Okay, thank you. And we're not taking any action on that. I just wanted you to
Thank you
know
for your
it's a
suggestion.
lot more complicated than you might think from those 2 or 3 lines.
Right.
I did ask Mr. Hoffman yesterday, because now I want to turn to page 40, section 77, which leads into something that we have to discuss almost every biennium. And who wants to talk about that?
Section 77 changes the cap for the revenue stabilization fund. Currently, it's based on general fund unrestricted revenue for the most recently completed fiscal year. This would change it to the most recently completed fiscal biennium, which would, assuming even revenues in each year, it would double the cap.
Madam Chair, is this the rainy day fund?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we haven't done anything with that. I'm not proposing we do something with it right now, but I wanted to know if the division had questions that we should be thinking about. Because we're going to have the governor's budget director in at one point to talk to us. And I think he will have probably some questions and some things to say to us about that. But if we're going to have questions on it, I wanted to get that out as soon as I could to him. Any questions? Okay, so we'll just think about that. I think I have some HB1 amendments. I gotta tell you, this is so much easier when LBA is in the room and you can say, hey, Nance and Mike, do we have an amendment on HB1 or something? And they can say, well, would you like to do this or would you like to do that? And you can just say yes, and they hand it out for you. All right. Mike and Nancy, these are going to be more difficult. I need to put up the errata sheet, technical corrections to source of funds. This is not general funds. This is the Department of Labor. They brought this to our attention when they were here. Can you put that up on the screen for me? Bingo, thank you. All right, if you recall, when Mr. Merrifield was here, he pointed out that agency income, not general funds, but agency income, two of them just got swapped and not keyed in the right line. So this is the adjustment to make that happen. No change in funding, no change in bottom line of the budget. You just swap one thing for another. Representative Emmerich moves to accept the HB1 amendment to labor, the errata sheet. Is there a second? Representative Griffin seconds. Mr. Clerk, I bet you know what? It's your turn. He is. He's like, this is too much paper. Oh, having room is wonderful. We are set.
Okay. Your vote, Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch?
Yes.
Vote Representative Walls?
Yes.
Okay, the vote is unanimous, 7-0.
Great. Okay, and now, guys, we have a harder one. Nancy and Mike, can you bring up the DOC restore funds for educational and vocational programs amendment, please? You got your steps today.
Okay.
Did I not give you enough?
Oh, no, I was talking about the roll call sheet, which I'm going to fill out when we take a break.
Okay,
Thank you.
just, I'm gonna have LBA walk us through this, but little background. When Department of Corrections was here, this division discovered that the educational and vocational programs had been unfunded in the DOC. I have said to Helen that we have money to put it back, and I wanted her to do a deep dive on how she wanted it spread out and what she needed to match the amount of money that she was being given. This was the top piece was given to LBA, and they worked on this. This is a 2-page attachment because the attachment is, in order to fund this, what I have done, I'm hoping that Ways and Means revenues are too low. And we all know that we won't have the March revenues, nor will we have the April, which is when the business taxes come in. And we usually have a really big month. So I have taken the money, which is general fund dollars, from the governor's scholarship fund. I have left the lines open so that as this will have passed out of us before that comes, so the Senate can just flow the money back into that, transferred the money over to DOC. I talked to the governor's budget director this morning. He said that they had had a great deal of difficulty when they made that cut themselves, and he understood where we were going, and he appreciated leaving the 2 scholarship lines open because they think, as I think, that the economy is recovering and we are going to see more revenue. But we have to go with the House Ways and Means, which was unanimous, and those guys are the experts, and they're doing what they have right now, which I greatly respect. And I just tend to be a little more optimistic about the future. They can't afford to be optimistic. They have to be accurate. So their approach is a little different. So this is 2-page amendments, what we have. LBA, would you walk us through first the corrections piece?
Yes, that's the first page that you should see on your screen. And this would restore funding the 21 positions that were unfunded in the education and vocation programs. This information was provided by the commissioner. And you'll see the general fund totals of approximately 2.5 million in each year. And then if I turn to the next page, you'll see the Governor's Scholarship account. And that's going to be on line 107, which is reduced, and there's $1 left to hold the class line open.
I think everybody in the division thought we should have education in the prisons. I know we were sued over that. I don't think prisoners can develop skills to lead a meaningful life if we can't provide some training. Representative Leishman.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd just like to thank you. And certainly we all recognize the importance of this and the fact that you have taken such a positive stance. I just want to say that's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Representative.
Madam Chair.
Just a moment, Representative Walls. Representative Emmerich is moving the package of the amendment for the Department of Corrections and the amendment for the Treasury. Representative Griffin is seconding. We're open for questions. Representative Walsh, you have your hand up. Please proceed.
I do. Thank you. So I'm assuming that what's not in here is the transitional housing units. All we're restoring is the educational monies. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. By the way, I do want to echo what Representative Leishman said. I was shocked by these cuts, and I am so pleased that you are working to restore them. So I just want to say that as well. I think these are crucial.
Thank you.
So, okay.
And
So
I'm as concerned about transitional housing as you are, but it was kind of like one step at a time.
sure. And I appreciate that. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure it's hard to see these on the screen, and particularly this is the first time we're seeing them. I wanted to be sure I understood what we're seeing. So
First time I'm seeing it as well. So yes.
Thank you. So I have two questions. One is the second page numbers look like they're smaller than the first page numbers. Maybe I'm misreading it.
They're a little larger.
No, it looks like we're spending more than we're taking is what I'm suggesting. Maybe I'm not misreading it, but I look like it's,
If you look at the change column, you have house introduced and then change. And then and we are looking at the bottom of Treasury right now. We are taking out 2.9 million. If you look at corrections, Nancy or Mike, if you can bring up corrections. If you look at it's in the same format. We are spending $2,479,000. So we're taking a little more than we are spending. I'm aware we have the transitional housing issue and some other issues, but that's what we have. So we are spending less than we are taking, ever so slightly.
now I see it. Thank you. My second question is that, as I recall, there was a total of an $8 million cut to the corrections budget. If this looks like a restoring 5 total, so
That's
that
right.
is an additional $3 million cut. I guess that's primarily the transitional housing without seeing the whole thing.
No, that's actually not right. If you go one more column over, there was a larger amount of money in the education than we're restoring. However, the other thing I've done since corrections was here, remember they came the first day, I called Helen and asked her if she could call Commissioner Adelblue at Department of Education, because we have an online virtual charter school that provides some late elementary classes and all of the high school classes. And with the new women's prison, it was designed with an opportunity to be able to take advantage of some of that online education as well for people trying to get either their GED or finish out their high school diploma. She has reached out to him, and she is also going to be using VLAX. So there is a difference between what she originally presented to the governor with no VLAX and what we're restoring in the funding. So she is giving up about $1.5 million 0.4 in educational funding as well.
Okay, thank you for that explanation because that was not obvious looking at this. I appreciate.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. Thank you for asking. I've had so many phone calls trying to work out some of these things to fund some things that I'm losing my mind. There isn't
Okay.
enough wine in the world. That's how I'm going to put it.
Thank you.
Okay. I know. We have a motion on the floor to approve the DOC restoration funds for educational programming in conjunction with the governor's scholarship fund made by Representative Emmerich, second by Representative Griffin. If you're in favor of the motion, when the clerk calls your name, please vote yes. If no, please vote no.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Leishman,
Yes.
Representative Hatch,
Yes.
Representative Walls.
Yes.
Vote 7-0 unanimous, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, I have a technical corrections for admin services, which I am seeing for the first time, but I'm going to ask LBA to bring it up. I'm not even going to be able to speak to this. I know that Charlie sent this in. He did tell us in his presentation it was coming, but I don't remember quite all the details.
Would you,
Okay, so whoever in
can I address that? There are,
Nancy, absolutely,
there are three,
please.
there are 3 pages which amount to a combined 608,000 in FY '22 and 631,000 in FY '23. And what this is a reallocation of source of funds for a budgetary transfer for maintenance of buildings that are occupied by other agencies. And normally, and those agencies already have this built into their agency transfers. So there's no corresponding change here, but it was misclassified in the budget as general funds, and it should have been classified as transfers from other agencies. So there is no impact to those agencies, but it does reduce the general fund source of fund within the DAS budget and increases the transfer line. So the agency nets that amount in general fund dollars. And that was their request during their presentation. So there are 3 different entities, the Department of Revenue, the Department of State, and the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Again, no impact to those agency budget lines because it's already been budgeted in their transfer lines appropriately. We're truly in errata here.
Okay, Representative Emmerich moves the administrative services errata sheet for the technical corrections. Representative Emmerich seconds. Is there any conversation, questions? Representative Walls and LBA, Nancy, you're going to answer this, I hope.
I'm going to try.
Go, Mary Beth.
Thank you. So what is the effect really on DAS and their spending? So this is $600,000 of general funds. It's coming back to them. Do they get to spend it to make some of that 15% cut, or was that?
Oh,
already
yes,
accounted
they
for?
do. And I have an amendment for that. If we approve this, the next one you're going to see is we are giving that money back to them for some of those positions Charlie wanted.
Thank you. That was my question.
That was easy.
Okay, did she talk enough? You can call the roll, Sir Clerk?
Yes. All right, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
votes yes. Vice Chairman,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Leishman, Representative Hatch,
Yes.
Representative Walls.
Yes.
Vote 7-0. It's unanimous.
Okay, and so the last thing we're going to do before lunch This is called the additional need from DAS, and this is long, and I'm just seeing this now. Mr. Clerk, and I am passing it out. I have to apologize to the division for being an hour late this morning. I had to go to a meeting with the speaker and the governor. But I know that Representative Emmerich did an absolutely magnificent job while I was gone. And Representative Burge wants to know if we need a motion that Representative Emmerich did a magnificent job. All right. Nancy, I know you worked like a yeoman on this one as well, so I'm going to turn it over to you. I will say there were a couple of things that we found in the DAS budget. One of them was the errata sheet we just took care of. The other one was at cybersecurity, which they've been paying to the tune of $600,000, was supposed to have been transferred over to DOIT because it hits every agency and every branch. So it's not just the executive branch, but also the judicial branch. So we've made those changes, and we are working now to restore admin services to where they would have been if they'd made the same amount of cuts as everybody else, but not had to cut so many people because of the mistakes in the budget. So Nancy, if you will walk us through it, please.
Sure, Madam Chair. What you have in front of you are 20 pages. Thank you, Mike, for stringing these together because they were 20 separate documents. And these restore the 20 positions that the agency specified as having been unfunded in their budget. You would find it on the last page, page 18 of the agency's budget presentation. And this is just all the backup for every one of those items. The only change that we made at the agency's request from what you saw was, I believe, it's the very first request, their very first prioritized need, which is a new position. It is not, it was included in their request, but it was not unfunded. It was a new position for an administrator to handle the 5 different attached boards that have been put into the department's budget. And so you will see that as priority number 1. And the reason you're seeing priorities here is because subsequent to their presentation to the division, they did provide our office with a ranking for each one of the bundles. If you recall, they issued, I believe it was 6 bundles, and they were by category, whether it was procurement, public works, personnel, audit, or the commissioner's office and the budget office. And subsequent to their presentation, given that the division was interested in the positions, they supplied priorities for each position individually. And so that's why you see a priority number in order for each position and the reference to the bundle that they had originally. So a very long-winded way of saying these are the 20 positions in priority order and their impact on the budget. Several of these are shared, have a mixed funding source. So there would be, as you'll see, an agency income piece. So it's not all general funds. Several of them are part-time and not full-time. So they're amount to small salaries and benefits. But the net for all of these was described prior to this. So these represent the restoration of essentially 20 unfunded positions, except for the 1 new one. So 19 unfunded and 1 new.
If there are questions, again, I'm going to let Nancy answer them. Representative Walls.
Thank you. So I've opened their bundles, and it was a total of about approximately 1.3 million per year. And I'm losing this a little bit. Is this 600,000 through the biennium or 600,000 per year?
Per year. Per year.
So it's 1, 6 and 6, 12. So it's most of what their bundles were, is what it sounds like.
It's everything. It's all of those positions that they identified. every
Well, if
single,
it's, wait a minute, it's 600,000 per year and it was 1.3 million per year that they showed on their bundles. So it sounds like.
Don't forget the 600,000 from cybersecurity that they also were erroneously paid for. So we had their errata sheet, and then we had the other 600,000. Commissioner Goulet is still working on the details of that amendment, and I don't have it yet.
So to be clear, it looks like we are restoring almost everything that were in their 6 bundles. Am I correct?
yes, for positions only. These were just the positions. And the agency is, as the chair indicated, going to be providing some language for the cybersecurity piece. And we are also working on a possible House Bill 1 amendment to make these positions, well, I'll leave it at that. This is the DAS piece that we're talking about right here. So their funding piece is being worked on so that we can provide the backup for these funds.
Thank you for helping me understand this.
Representative Emmerich moves the approval of the adoption of the administrative services bundled priorities. Representative Griffin seconds. I don't see any additional conversation. Sir Clerk, if you are ready.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman? Representative Hatch? Bill? He probably left the room. Absent. Representative Waltz?
Yes.
The vote is 6-0 unanimous.
Okay. Thank you very much, LBA. Thank you. I can't tell you, Nancy, you and Mike, how much I miss having you here with us. I try not to say that every day. It sounds like I'm whining. We are now going to be in lunch recess until 12:30 when we have Pease Development Authority. And LBA, we're going to turn off the sound here. I don't know what you're going to do. I think our equipment in this room now does seem to be strong enough that we can leave it up with just a lunch recess sound sign on.
We'll put a sign up.
We're going to be discussing Pease International. And I think Gino is, well, he was with us. He is with us. Hi, Gino. You're muted.
I unmuted, Representative.
You're not muted now. Welcome. Thank you for coming and talking to us.
Well, thank you for having us. For the record, Gino Marconi, I'm the Director of the Pease Development Authority Division of Ports and Harbors. And with me is Mr. Paul Breen, who is the Executive Director of the Pease Development Authority.
I'll tell you what, this is your presentation for people. If anybody's watching at home, well, I don't see anybody, so just us. Your budget is on page 846 in our governor budget books. And Gina, we're going to turn it over to you to talk to us. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Well, I'm going to defer for a second so that Paul can introduce himself and
Okay.
Just.
Hi, Paul Breen, Pease Development Authority Executive Director. Thank you for having Gino and I. As most of you know, pursuant to Chapter 290, New Hampshire State Port Authority was transferred to the PDA effective July 1st, 2001. So with that,
Paul, you're going to have to move closer to
I apologize.
the equipment. We are in a room with extra air cleaning equipment, but it's a little bit noisy.
Okay, I apologize. I just wanted to remind everyone that effective July 1st, 2001, Pease Development Authority took over the Division of Ports and Harbors, and I'll let Director Marconi go in detail on the budget for that. Thank you.
All right, Representative. As Paul said, 2001, we were merged administratively with Pease, but the enabling statute required that any existing classified employees positions remain classified employee positions. So we currently have 6 full-time classified positions, one of which has not been, is empty. The person retired, and that was the operations manager. And we did a rehire, and we did it as a P's employee. We have 4 part-time, year-round classified employees. Again, over the years through attrition, as our harbor masters, our part-time harbor masters were leaving, we hired harbor masters as PDA employees. So what you see in front of you is basically the pay for those employees, and with the full-time ones, the benefits. But I think it's important to say that their pay comes out of the classified system, and the checks are cut by the state. But we reimburse the general fund for these payments for these folks' payroll. So that in the end, there is no net effect on general fund revenues.
Right. And soon, I would imagine at some point in the future, I don't know how far in the future, everybody will be a P's employee and no longer a state employee, right?
Well, there's one little thing that we're trying to work through, and that is that 2 of those positions by statute are required to be police officers certified by PSTC, and they're in group 2 retirement. So we're trying to have some discussions on how that could work with the legal authority that P's has. So we've got some discussions going on with that. Our chief harbor master has been with us a long time. And I'll say about our deputy chief harbor master that at the last executive council meeting, the governor nominated our deputy chief Grant Nichols to be the assistant director of emergency management and homeland security over under DOS.
Oh.
Yeah, I got to tell you something. He's perfect for the job. He's been with us for 15 years, and our loss is their gain. But good for Grant. He's a great guy and a hard worker.
Does anybody have any question? I mean, these guys have been doing a great job for us. They're entirely self-funded, and it's just fun to see them once every couple of years.
Well, if you come down to the Seacoast representatives, you know, we can show you around, especially pick a sunny day though.
Yeah, I'll pick a sunny day, and I'll tell you, most of us sitting in this room now have been vaccinated. So we are joining the herd and moving forward and trying to help stop this horrible disease.
Yes.
Any questions? Representative Taberge.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. This is probably either a question for the chairman or yourself. I don't know, under page 846, item 020, current expenses. How does one crystal ball current expenses for 2 years in advance? To me, it doesn't make sense. The words don't work, and
Well, they're stuck with whatever DAS gives them for a class line. So I don't know what Gene's got in there. I mean, we're talking about $220, but they don't have any choice over what those are called. That's our budget system.
And if I may, Madam Chair, the budget system is classified. The scale is in the book, and it's a step system. So
Right.
what they do is, I'm not the finance guy, but what they do is they look at the step system and they know who's up for the next step, and then they have the increases that are required under law, annual increases, cost of living increases, and so that's how some of these numbers get increased over the period of time.
Yeah. So I don't see any questions on your budget. Are we ready to approve the budget? Representative Emmerich moves approval of the budget. Representative Griffin seconds. Representative TaBurge, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Okay, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch is absent. Representative Walls? Oh, can't hear you.
I think she's muted, but she said yes.
Okay, got it.
I did say yes. I apologize.
We're 6-0. Gino, thank you for spending the time with us and keep up the good work and nice to see you.
Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Okay, my friends, I have yet another HB1 amendment. And Representative TaBurge reinforced his roll call sheet supply at lunch. So there's, oops, nope, it didn't fall on the floor. Nancy and Mike, this is the Department of Justice. This is their errata sheet. We really don't know anything about it. All she said was there was an errata sheet. If you can bring it up on the screen so we can see it, and then somebody tell us, it looks like they are making a couple of small changes.
Can you hear me? This is Mike.
Oh, we can.
Can you see the Department of Justice sheet in front of you?
And we can.
And is it large enough? It's got a lot of
Yeah.
rows.
It looks like they moved. I don't know what they did with the money. They just moved some stuff out.
Well, when they came in, they talked about an IRS problem that they identified the medical investigators as employees where the state had been treating them as contractors.
Yeah.
So the Department of Justice challenged that and the IRS reversed their positions. So now the Department of Justice can treat these investigators as contractors. So they're moving the appropriations from class lines that would be to pay employees, for example, 14, and then further down you see quite a bit in class 50 and the benefit lines, and they're moving that into the contracts for program services line. There's no general fund impact. It's just a small adjustment at the bottom from one source of funds to another, less than $10,000 involved in each line.
Any questions? Representative Emmerich moves the amendment. Representative Griffin seconds. When you are ready, Sir Clerk, we will take the roll.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman?
Yes.
Representative Hatch? I don't see him. Representative Walls?
Are you muted again?
Representative Walls, are you muted?
Yes, I'm sorry. I try to do that to be considerate and then I forget I've done it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to put this away in one folder, shuffle around and bring out some paperwork I got from LBA that I'm hoping Mike is going to be able to tell us where we have this. We're going to go to your Hb2 book again, and we're going to go to section 127, which, let me tell you what page we're looking at. 55, page 55, which I think we had approved this already. So this section, so I'm not quite sure where we had this little bit of amendment, but the amendment, Mike, is 2021-0687H. Tracy. Okay,
This,
we're looking at a section we actually had approved, and now we have a little amendment. So if you can tell us what's going on with that, Mike, I'd greatly appreciate it.
yes, this was when the Department of Labor was in, and Nancy pointed out that there was a drafting error at the very end of section 127, and that last sentence was new.
Right,
So
I remember.
rather than having it lost in the shuffle, I asked Legislative Services just to fix it now, so we wouldn't have to keep track of it as a technical correction at the end of the process.
Works for me. And we all approve this with that language in it. So I will move to approve Amendment 2021-0687H. Representative Emmerich seconds. Any questions on this? Seeing none, if you could call the roll.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Leishman, Representative Hatch, I believe is not back. Representative Walls,
Yes.
the vote is 6-0. Madam Chairman, it's unanimous.
Okay, let me see if I have anything else. That's relatively easy to do here. I think I need 4 more pairs of hands, not 2 more pairs of hands. I need 4 more pairs of hands.
My husband always maintains he just needs to clone himself to get everything done.
Maybe that would help. Mike, is amendment 2021-0695 HB 281?
695. I believe it is, yes.
Okay, let's look at that, because at least all of us read HB 281 when it was the floor of the House. So although it's several pages long here, we've had a bite at the apple already. We passed it last House session. This is amendment 2021-0695H. This is being added to, excuse me, HB2 at the request of Chairman Norman Major and Vice Chairman Patrick Abrami. This bill passed on the floor of the House, so it is the House position. And this is exactly what you saw on the floor of the House. What it does is on the last page, it suspends the effective date until January 2026 of the single sales factor apportionment. And we were asked to put this into HB2 as a new section because the House approved it. By the House during our last session. So I would move the adoption of amendment 2021-0695H. Representative Emmerich will second. Discussion on the motion. I love it when you've had something 2 or 3 weeks ago to read, so now we're not all fumbling with something we haven't seen before. Sir Clerk, if you could call the roll, I see no discussion.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin,
Yes.
Representative Leishman,
Yes.
Representative Hatch is not back. Representative Walls,
Yes.
the vote is 6-0. Madam Chairman, it's unanimous.
Thank you. That did not alleviate my need for 4 more pairs of hands. Oh, my. You're keeping up with me. I'm drowning in paper over here. Okay. We're still waiting for Nancy on that one. Okay, I want to go to section 53. In House Bill 2, which is page 25. Oh, and Tracy is waiting for me not to hog and keep all these, but to pass them out. Which would mean somebody else gets some of my paper. There's yours. There's mine.
Thank you.
This, believe it or not, is a relatively easy cut in the budget of a small amount, but since we have fewer revenue dollars than we have other things, we're looking on page 25. Yesterday, Commissioner Caswell talked about wanting to hire a new staff member, the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs. That position is currently empty. And this relates to the job. And what this amendment does is it says, yes, you can hire that person, but it takes effect January 1, 2023. So it pushes much of the expenditure out of this biennium into the last 6 months of the year. And hopefully by then, everything will turn around and we'll have more revenue. On the other hand, if things turn around faster than Ways and Means thinks, this is an easy change for the Senate to make if they end up with a lot more money than we have. So I've left everything the way it is, said, yeah, you can have this position, but we're not going to fund it until the last 6 months of the biennium. Representative Emmerich adopts Amendment 2021-0738 and moves to adopt 0738H. Representative Emmerich Griffin seconds. It would be nice if we ended up with a lot more money, but if we don't, this is an easy cut. Position isn't there anyway. We'll just save a few dollars.
Madam Chair, does Nancy know how much this might save us, or we don't need it now, but
I don't know right now, but we're going to find out. I still am waiting for Representative Weiler to tell us exactly how much our portion of the cuts we have to make are. I did tell him we got more revenue back by hiring some auditors. He was pleased. Okay, seeing no discussion, Representative Taberge, will you please call the roll?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin?
Yes.
Representative Leishman, sorry. Representative Hatch is absent. Representative Walls.
Yes.
The vote is 6-0. Madam Chairman, it's unanimous.
Redrafted. 225.
I already told him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Okay, we're going to have a brief 8 or 9 minute recess. We have the Liquor Commission. Oh, no, they're not coming till 2. Why are they not coming till 2? That's a longer break than I wanted. Mike, do we have anything that we could deal with?
I have one more House Bill 1 amendment drafted that deals with the Small Business Development Center.
Could you bring that over?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. Nope, we don't want to do that.
Okay.
I emailed you and Nancy a change earlier in the day.
Okay, we have,
You know what, Mike? I think we adopted the wrong amendment.
which one?
The bill that represents 281, and unfortunately, I don't have a copy of that in here, and I'm using my, I'll talk to you about it later. I don't have anything else current that we have seen. Have we got anything in HB2 that we were going to talk to you guys about that we haven't? Did Anthony finish that amendment with Ken Merrifield's change on the due process?
I haven't seen that yet from, oh, actually, I emailed you something yesterday, I believe, but
Yes, I was up here yesterday.
Ken Merrifield said his people were looking at it in more depth. I guess he
That
wanted
was
to-
Anthony's proposed change to his language.
Yeah, I did send you Anthony's proposed change, but then later I heard from Ken Merrifield, who asked his hearing officer to look at the language. And I did hear from Representative Waltz that she was interested in what Ken Merrifield was going to provide.
Well,
that-
until that amendment's ready to be released, it can't be released. And I guess Anthony held it up with Ken's hold of permission.
That could be.
So
I
we
just think
can't
it's-
release that right now.
Okay.
Can we go to page 62 and look at the D and C changes? It's not clear to me which ones generate revenue and which ones do not generate revenue. And the commissioner spoke about this briefly, but then even when I read it later, I wasn't positive I understood her revenue issues.
Madam Chair, are you 62 in HB1 or HB2?
I'm in HB2. Now, let me see if it's section 142. On page 62.
Yep.
Which is at the bottom of the page. And the
Okay.
commissioner briefly discussed this. And then later when I read it, Mike, can you run us through this? I mean, it looks like it's existing language.
Madam Chair, these are appropriations for essentially park projects that they're hoping to generate additional revenue for in campgrounds, upgrading the RV hookups.
Right, but where does it say what the revenue is, Nancy?
They did not supply, I don't believe they supplied any revenue associated with these items. I'd have to go back and look at their
Well,
presentation.
that explains why I couldn't find it in here.
Yeah, I mean, I remember her discussing it as being, but particularly in Hampton, at the Hampton RV Park, that they could fill those rather quickly and same at Jericho Mountain, but additional revenue, I don't know if they supplied anything to that effect.
And as written, this is a general fund appropriation.
Right, but she did tell us we were getting revenue from it.
I'd have to go back and look at their presentation in more detail.
I don't think it was in the presentation. I had the presentation at home and then I tried to read this online. And I couldn't find it when I was reading HB2 online when I was home.
Right, and you know, these are essentially capital appropriations as well, but.
What do we have in the budget HB2 last year for Fort Stark? Because it seems to me this has gone to $615,000. And I thought I remembered something smaller that perhaps the Senate took out.
Yes. In 2019, there was a House Bill 2 appropriation in the CRIF, which was a number of one-time projects. And it was deleted during the process. I don't know exactly when, or I believe the amount was around 400 or 350,000. I'd have to double check that. But it did drop out during the process.
Yeah, and we put it in the House, but I think this is double what they asked for.
I think you are right about that. I can verify that.
So if I can, she said, starting on line 9, now I'm on page 63. The sum of $655,000 for the purpose of redevelopment improvement projects at Jericho Mountain Beach Area Campground, including the RV dump station, 2 new pit toilets, 10 campsites, 4 camping cabins, extension water facilities, etc. She said that section would bring in revenue. Yes?
I recall that she discussed that as being a very popular area and that they could generate revenue with the addition of those projects, but we don't have a level of detail for that.
Let's see if we can figure out which one. She didn't say there'd be any revenue for Fort Stark. What about the Hampton RV Park? Did she say additional revenue there?
I'm not sure about that because it's essentially an upgrade of the system. So I'm not sure what revenue could be attributable to that. If the sites exist now, it's just an upgrade to the amperage.
Did she say that RVs were bypassing them because they couldn't use the electricity?
They are obsolete, that's my understanding. I don't know that means they're being bypassed, but certainly they could charge additional amounts if they were upgraded.
Can you find out for us, for each of these sections, if there is additional revenue, and if yes, what they think it is going to be? And can you also ask her why Fort Stark has gone up so much more than it was 2 years ago? I know construction has increased, but a 50% increase in construction costs in 2 years seems to be a little high.
Yeah, I can certainly touch base with her, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate to mention, but I'm not certain that the increased revenue is not going to be within the park fund either, and not general funds.
No, it'd be in the park fund, but if she's making more money for the parks, then she can afford to pay for more. I'm not looking for general revenue now. She would spend that on the parks. But
Right.
she's asking, as I understand this, for general fund dollars to
Right.
upgrade the parks. Or did I misread that?
No, these are general fund appropriations.
Okay, I didn't misread that.
No, you did not.
Well, you'll find that out for us. And then we have, if I turn the page 64, the bottom of page 64, we have a section 145, that we haven't voted on. And we need to repeal this. Nancy, can you speak to this?
Section 145.
No, 146, I'm sorry. Bottom of the page, line 34. Or Mike, I don't know who wants to talk to
Yeah,
it.
this is a DOJ.
Yeah, this
Association.
is, it's a little bit odd drafting because 145 is the body worn cameras. 146 is in the middle of another section that relates to the body worn cameras. But 146 is a repeal
Of a commission.
of a commission. And I believe, I always get tripped up because these sections are out of order.
I think these are standard, this is standard language going back to line 13. When Legislative Services drafts the commission, you'll see on line 33 that they have a report due November 1st, 2021, and then the commission effectively is repealed on the same date or day later. So that's how they handle commissions in statute so that they don't go on forever.
Then we could basically get rid of that.
Well, if you do, they submit a report, but they technically remain on the books. It's unlike a chaptered study that goes out of existence because it's in chapter law. These are in statute. These are statutory commissions. And I believe this kind of language was developed several years ago to clean up the books, as it were, so that these kinds of commissions don't continue on ad infinitum.
Okay, so we could just approve this section to clean up the commission language, yes?
Well, if you flip to page 65, section 148 makes an appropriation for that commission. So you may want to look at all the sections together.
What section is that?
148 on page 65. So it's a $500,000 appropriation.
That would be out of order.
It's no wonder people can't read HB2.
They effectively go out of commission, literally, in 2021, and then they get an appropriation.
Well, that appropriation, isn't that to a different commission?
No.
No?
105D3A.
No kidding. Oh, well, 146 doesn't name the commission. And then you turn the page and now a commission is named. Why don't we gift these to Division 2?
We can do that.
So, Mike and Nancy, we're going to take these off our plate by gifting section 146 to Division 2. Give him 148. And we're going to give him 148 to Division 2. And that brings us to page 65, section 150.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, did you want to keep 147?
I'd already gifted that away, Nancy.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, I did. No, when Mike came up here, I gifted away 147 and 149 because they're clearly in safety.
Very
and now
generous.
I've gifted him a couple of a gift Division 2, a couple of more. This is an interesting way for Division One to balance their budget. We just give things away. Yeah, 146 goes to them. So we're gifting them 145, 146, 147, 148. And that brings us to 150, which is the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. I believe that's in the AG, isn't it?
Yes.
And Jane tried to speak to these yesterday. Can we look at section 150 and see? Can you guys walk us through that, please? I can't gift that one away. I'm going to have to keep it.
We
For now.
received, or I received an email making some restatements of what they had for House Bill 2 paperwork when they came into the division.
Yep.
And it's much clearer, and they're asking to delete some unnecessary sections. So
Can you
I've
by
asked-
any chance print that out and bring us 5 or 6 copies so we have some for the clerk?
I'll be happy to.
All right, maybe we can deal with that. Nancy is, do you do judicial counsel or does Mike?
Mike does.
I do.
We can,
All right, well, you're gonna come over here, so I'm trying to find something Nancy can talk to us about while you're on your way, so we can. No, I don't want to deal with that now. Okay, Mike, that's all we've got. You're gonna have to bring that to us and then we'll talk about judicial counsel and the paperwork you've got. So we will take a, I don't know, 10-minute break to give Mike a chance to walk over here. So we're gonna be muted for 10 minutes, back in 10 minutes. Approximately, it is 1:10. Waiting for Mike to walk back. And then he's gonna bring up some stuff and walk us through it. We have copies, but we haven't looked at either. So while we wait, let's go to page 28, 26 in HB2, section 58, which is one of ours that we need to deal with. And section 58, which is on page 26, as I said, has a one-line change. And what it does is the existing law says any equipment purchased in excess of $5,000. They want to scratch $5,000 and they want to replace that with the approval threshold for contracts set by the governor and council manual of procedures. And I believe they changed that a few years ago to $10,000. And so they're trying to bring this up. I don't see any problem with approving this section so that it matches what's in the manual. Does it? Representative Emmerich moves to approve section 58. Representative Griffin seconds that. Is there any discussion on the motion? Representative Walls.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It looks like my first reaction is we should make this permanent so we don't have to do this annually. And it looks like it is that it's amending the RSA. Am I
That's right.
reading it correctly? So this is permanent.
Yes. All right, Sir Clerk, when you're ready on the motion to approve section 58. Representative Emmerich made the motion, Representative Griffin seconded.
Okay, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman? Yes. The clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin? Representative Leishman? Yes. Representative Hatch is still excused. Representative Waltz?
Yes.
Okay, Madam 6-0, the
Thank you. Nancy, while we're waiting for Mike to get back, I want to go down to section 59. Section 59 extends a date. The appropriation shall not match till June 30th, 2023. It's my understanding you dug into that and there's only $200,000 of the 6 million not expended. Is that correct? She may still be on the break or on the phone. All right, we will hold that question.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. I was muted myself. I apologize.
No problem.
It's nothing like talking to the wall. You are correct. I did not dig into that, but we did receive emailed information from the department this morning that the unobligated balance is less than $200,000.
So my original thought had been if it was closer over $1 million or something, we would cut it because we had to make some cuts. Since it's only down to less than $200,000, I frankly think we should just approve it and move this on. Does anybody have any other thoughts? Representative Emmerich moves to approve section 59. Representative Griffin seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. When the clerk is ready, he will call the roll.
Okay, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman, the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin, Representative Leishman, Representative Hatch is still excused. Representative Walsh,
Yes.
the vote is 6-0. It's unanimous, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. We are going to turn the page, the top of the next page in HB2. We're now on page 27. We are looking at section 60. This is a section that is existing from, I think, word for word from last year's HB2, changing the date to the new biennium. So this is chapter law, not an RSA, but changing it to June 30th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve? Representative Emmerich moves to approve section 60. Representative Griffin seconds. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman, the clerk votes yes. Representative Griffin, Representative Leishman, Representative Hatch is still excused. Representative Walsh,
Yes.
the vote is 6-0. Madam Chairman, it's unanimous.
Thank you. Mike, has Mike gotten back yet from his sprint across over to us?
Yes, I took the subway from the LOB to the State House.
Way to go. All right, if you can bring up what we just got from DOJ, and we're going to be looking at page 65, basically, section 150 on line 31. And Mike's going to bring up a document that they have just printed and grade and scratch through what they don't want. And he's going to walk us through these.
So I'm on page 3 of the letter. And at the bottom of that page, you'll see the statement that the language strikeouts on the attached document are requested to be removed from House Bill 2 as introduced. And the request is to keep the remaining text for the medical examiner and director of diversity outreach positions. And as I understand it, this would go along with that House Bill 1 amendment to restore the previous language regarding the medical examiners, because since the IRS is no longer pursuing this, they can pay them as contractors. And this email was copied to the budget director, was included, so I didn't hear any resistance from that office. So this basically goes along with that House Bill 1 cleanup. So if we move on to page, I don't know if these pages are numbered, but 65 of House Bill 2, they're asking to strike section 151. Which would have authorized an unclassified position. So since they are paying these people as contractors. They don't need to establish that position. And as we scroll down to 154, that looks like language that would have paid a dollar amount for certain investigations, which would be consistent with a paid contractor. And then submitting claims. So an unclassified position would have been on salary and wouldn't have gone through that process. 155 is being eliminated. That would have established a deputy chief. It's plural, so more than one deputy chief forensic investigator. 156. Not sure exactly what they're doing there.
I'm not either, but if they don't want it, it's about cremation of human remains, so they're in charge of that. And they were making some changes to the law that I guess they've decided they don't need.
Correct.
So basically, Mike, if I have this from their document that we all just got, and we've been looking at with you,
Yes.
you could make an amendment, hopefully one, not four, but to delete section 151, 154, 155, and 156.
And that is exactly what I asked OLS for.
Okay. So that means we could approve sections 150, 152, and 153, all dealing with the chief medical examiner. And I guess I'd hang on to the other two for a minute, because if we get real crunch time trying to cut positions, the easy thing is to push those out rather than cut them so they don't hire them right away to save a few bucks. So could I have a motion to approve section 150, section 152, and section 153 for the office of the chief medical examiner? Representative Emmerich moves to approve section 150, 152, and 153. Representative Griffin seconds that. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Just clarification, how do I record this?
The motion should just be yes. It's a motion to approve sections 150, 152, and 153. Yep, you're welcome.
No,
We bundled them.
we bundled. Okay. Okay, for the roll call, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman?
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Leishman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Representative Griffin, sorry. Representative Hatch is absent, excused. Representative Walsh?
Yes.
The motion is 6-0. It's unanimous, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. All right, let me. They had that all in one section. I'm just going to mark it off, and then we will have an amendment to delete those other sections when we get done.
Okay, cool.
All right. So let me talk to you about the Small Business Development Center, and I don't right now have an amendment for that. I think each of us has been flooded with emails saying that they were cut $880,000 over the course of a biennium, and they couldn't exist without that. So what the governor had originally done was put 50,000 into next year and 0 the year after. I'm not sure where the figure that we've been getting in our emails came from. with a cuts of $440,000 in each of the 2 years. If you look at the budget, max they have been authorized in the budget is $315,000, which is $125,000 less than what we're being told was in the budget. I talked to the governor's budget director this morning, and I told him we were going to transfer money out of the rooms and meals tourism line, and we were going to fund small business development center at $225,000 in the first year and $225,000 in the second year. Representative Leishman, you found that what was the amount of money they actually spent?
In 2020, Madam Chair. In 2020, Madam Chair, it was 166,000 and change.
So in 2020, the Small Business Development Center spent $166,000 of state funding. We don't know exactly what they will spend in 21 because that year is ongoing. But I'm going to propose an amendment to give them $225,000 in each of 2 years. It's not quite as much as they got in the last biennium, but we've seen state agency after state agency come in and say, my spending level in general funds is down 12% or 5% or 4%, depending on the size of their unit. So I do think we all wanted to give them money, and we wanted to give them reasonable money to go forward. And this is going to require some belt tightening, but the state's doing some belt tightening. And hopefully we'll have that amendment the next time we meet. It seemed like a compromise in response to the emails we got. Nancy, is that you with your hand up?
It is me, Madam Chair, with my hand up, and
I wish it said Nancy and Lavinas.
I'll figure that out by the time we meet again. Actually, I sign on with Mike Hoffman's name, so it'd be confusing if there are two Mike.
You guys share a license, don't you?
We do.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's why.
And so this is a little less than I originally thought, but when I found out how much money they really were budgeted as opposed to what we were sent, that's what I think we'll do.
There's a little bit of confusion because they did receive an appropriation late in the budget process last session in House Bill 2 of $125,000 in each fiscal year.
Well,
So-
maybe by the time we get done the Senate, they can raise that.
Right, so that's why you see that
Yeah.
$400,000 number floating around.
Well, I want to give him something. I want him to keep going. I think we all do. And I think we're cognizant of how much money we're having to cut.
Right.
So that's what I think we can do for them. All right, I think now I don't have anything else. LBA, do you have anything that we should have discussed that we haven't for the agencies? I mean, we still got some agencies that are coming in. We have the National Guard coming in. We're going to have liquor at 2 o'clock. The public hearing, by the way, I think you all got a notice, is next Tuesday, starting at 1 o'clock. It's Zoom. I think that Division 1 will meet Tuesday morning.
Yes.
I told Ken that then what I'm going to do is drive home and Zoom from the house because I think that could go on quite a while, and I'm not going to stay up here in room 202, at least at home. If I need a snack, I can run down and get a snack, watch my cats try to upset my monitor, whatever is going on. Okay, we're going to be then, if nobody has anything, Nancy, your hand still up or up again?
No, it is not up again. It will be down momentarily.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure. We will be in recess until 2 o'clock when the Liquor Commission is joining us. We will be back. The time being 2 o'clock, I'd like to call the division back to order. We are going to be working with the Liquor Commission on their budget I thought we were going to have a person or two from the Liquor Commission in person. I know we have the commissioner, but he's muted. There he is. Hi, Joe.
Madam Chair, how are you today?
We're good. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we're here to talk about your budget. I know I sent you a few questions, but you know, as always, those questions aren't the extent of what we're going to do. So I'd like to turn it over to you to start your presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Joseph Malika. I'm the chairman of the New Hampshire Liquor Commission. With me is our CFO, Tina Demers, our COO, Rose Wyatt, Mark Armaganian, our Director of Enforcement and Education, and Jessica Coe, our IT lead. Just a quick thank you for the opportunity to provide you an overview of the Liquor Commission's FY 22-23 operating budget. And just to let you know that the Commission is very mindful of our statutory responsibility to optimize revenue for the state of New Hampshire, while at the same time maintaining controls and improving efficiencies of our business. We feel that the 22-23 budget supports the level of funding that will allow us to maintain safe operations while returning maximum revenue to the general fund. Just quickly, the two areas of the budget that I would like to bring to your attention is the first is staffing. The funds associated with our positions is 56% of our budget. And even at this level, the Commission operates with a very, very lean full-time labor force and what I would consider a robust part-time labor force. The second is the funding necessary to implement and maintain the new next-gen D365 software platform to support our new point of sale and back office financial systems that are currently scheduled to go live at the end of this year. And at this point, Madam Chair, I would turn the presentation over to our CFO, Tina Demers, and have Tina walk you through our presentation. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tina Demers. I'm the CFO for the Liquor Commission. I'll be taking you through today's presentation. On page 2 is an introduction. We first want to remind everyone that the Liquor Commission is self-funded. Our budget is in a separate liquor fund.
Please suspend a moment. Mary Beth, can you hear her?
I can, but I don't have the documents. That's what I was just trying to figure out. But yes, I can hear her. Thank you.
I think they're bringing it up on the LBA website.
That's what I've been refreshing. Thank you.
Tina, be sure the microphone is really close to you. We have great air filtering equipment in our rooms. It exchanges all the air 5 times an hour, takes out all those nasty COVID particles and everything else. But it's a wee tiny bit noisy.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I will speak up. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So the liquor fund is self-funded. Our budget is a separate liquor fund outside of the general fund, and no general fund appropriations are used to maintain our operations. The commission operates 69 retail outlets, 9 state-owned and 60 leased. They generated over $617 million in net retail sales in FY20. Product is shipped out of 2 warehouses. One is state-owned and the other is contracted with DHL. Liquor revenue is transferred to the general fund after deducting administrative costs and are transfers to the Alcohol Abuse Prevention and Treatment Fund and the Granted Advantage Healthcare Trust Fund. Beer tax and permit revenue is transferred in a separate line item to the general fund. And the budget presented is the level of funding necessary to support our revenue estimates and our mission to optimize revenue for the state of New Hampshire. On page 3, we've provided the revenue trend and the transfer language. There are 2 laws that govern liquor fund transfers. The first is the 5% of previous year gross profit transferred to the Alcohol Abuse Prevention and Treatment Fund. And the second is the additional funds in the event of a shortfall in the Granted Advantage Healthcare Trust Fund. On line 1, net revenue for FY20 is a little over 141.8 million and increases to a little over 149 million in FY23. Line 2 is the 5% transfer to HHS that starts at a little over 10 million in FY20 and increases to just under 11 million in FY23. On line 3 is the transfer to the general fund. For FY20, it was 131.8 million. The amount for FY21 is the amount that would have been transferred to the general fund if not for the additional funds requested by HHS. And our FY22 and 23 are a little over 138 million. On line 4, we've provided the revenue plan numbers with line 5 showing the difference. Based on current trends, the estimated transfer to the general fund for FY22 and 23 is 1.6 million and 2.1 million higher than the estimates currently in HB1. On line 6 is the additional 8.5 million that's already been transferred to HHS this year for the shortfall in the Granted Advantage. So this leaves a transfer to the general fund this year of approximately 128.5 million. Line 8 is beer tax, which remains around 13 million. And line 9 is the total of the transfer to the general fund. It's also important to note that our expenses to net sale ratio is consistent at 10%. On page 4, we list out our major budget.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have a question regarding your alcohol abuse and prevention program. Do you have any data to support that it's been positive, that it has a good, impact?
They just transfer the money. They don't collect the data. That's a different crew.
That's a different group? Okay,
Yep.
Sorry. Thank you.
So you're off the hook. You guys can send me a candy bar for that.
Thank you. What kind do you like? On page 4, we're listing our major budget categories that correspond to the numbers on page 5, to the spreadsheet on page 5. So item number 1 are salaries and benefits. They're decreasing in FY22 as a result of position changes and a decrease in the retiree health. FY23 increase are to fund the 27th pay period and other increments. Current expense includes 2.8 million for our advertising contract and other items such as office and cleaning supplies, paper bags, and receipt rolls for our outlet stores. Rents and leases, this is to fund the necessary current rent obligations and expanding square footage for new outlet locations. FY21 budget is underfunded because of outlet changes that we've made after the budget period. So this creates a larger increase in FY22. FY23 is level funded. Utilities in FY22 are decreasing and are flat funded in FY23 as a result of more energy efficient outlets. Item number 5, contracts for operation includes our maintenance contracts such as electrical, HVAC, security systems, and smart safes and armored car services, which we added in November of 2018. FY22 funding is based on current contracts and our projected needs. FY23 increase is a result of an extra $1 million for maintenance and support contract for the D365 software platform. This is to support the point of sale and back office financial system. DOIT is the funding needed to maintain our current POS and back office systems and additional funds necessary for licensing, cloud services, and other annual software requirements to support the new D365 software platform. Equipment includes items such as shelving, checkouts. This item number 7 is checkouts and security cameras for new and updated outlets, and a rotation plan for replacing existing equipment such as vehicles, floor cleaners, and forklifts. Number 8, in-state travel. This is the funding for store moves and staffing changes. And number 9, other expenses. The primary change is from debt services. which is based on the current bond schedule and estimates for new debt. I'd also like to note that you'll see changes in the indirect cost line because the total for the agency was previously budgeted and paid for out of Accounting Unit 1023, Financial Administration. And in FY 22 and 23, we've reallocated the amount to the divisions as listed. We'll go to page 6. The FY 22 requested budget is 1.1 million or 1.4% more than the FY 21 adjusted authorized budget. A number of class categories decreased, such as salaries and benefits, utilities, equipment, and debt. And a number of class categories increased, such as rents, contracts, and DOIT. This is a result of FY 21 adjusted authorized budget versus what we actually spent. So with FY 22 based on what our current spend pattern is. There are 2 pie charts show the annual budget. First by class, with salaries and benefits making up 56%. And then the other one by accounting unit to show that store operations makes up more than 75% of our budget. On page 7, FY 23 budget. The requested budget is 3.4 million or 4.3% increase over FY 22. The 2 main reasons for the budget increase is the 2.1 million in salaries and benefits for the 27th paycheck and $1 million in contracts and operations for the D365 maintenance support contract. But we've also included an appendix for a technical correction requesting to move the funds for the contract from class 103 to class 38 software technology, which I will explain when we get further on into that page. And as you can see, yes.
Tina, can you stop a minute?
Sure.
We're seeing agency after agency come in and be lower percentage than last year. So seeing a 4.3% increase here, and in a previous one, you also had an increase. I'm concerned that other agencies are making some cuts. And I appreciate you guys raise money, but I currently need to cut quite a bit of money. I mean, you must know what the Ways and Means revenue estimates were. So I'm concerned about all of these increases.
Well, the increase for FY 23, you'll see that 2 million of that is for the salaries and benefits for the 27th pay period. And we have no control over that. And the
Well,
other
I did get that out and I don't think yours was that much. LBA did give me a share on that. I will double check that when I go home, but I don't think yours was that high on what they expected it to be.
Our average checks right now for a pay period is about 1.5 million. And we are looking at increasing our revenue estimates for 22 and 23 by the 1.6 and the 2 million.
I would just say, Madam Chair, is, to have this type of revenue increase where our revenue versus prior year, our net profit is up 14.7% or 13.9 million. And our actual revenue to the general fund is up 5.2%. or 4.4 million at this point. I think it would be a miscalculation of our funds to be able to cut anything now and continue to drive those profits when we're finally, after many years, coming into our own and expanding our brand. I think the numbers speak for themselves, Madam.
If you were in the room, you would hear the sighs I'm hearing, Joe. I hear what you're saying, but I am concerned. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So on page 7, the pie charts show the same breakdown by class and accounting unit. On page 8, the commission is the organizational structure, and the commission is made up of 3 divisions that report to the chairman and the deputy commissioner. Below are the divisions with the areas of responsibilities listed and the number of unclassified and classified positions assigned to each.
How many positions are unfunded in each of these divisions?
We have no unfunded positions.
How many positions are vacant in each of these divisions?
At this point, we have about 24 vacant positions.
In which division?
Mainly in store operations.
Would you like the breakdown? Or would you like me to?
No, please continue.
On page 9, provides a breakdown of the office of the commission and followed by each division. The primary budget changes are the same throughout. FY22 result of reallocating of indirect costs, and FY23 is for the 27th pay period. So at this point, I won't take the time to go through each individually unless you would like me to, Madam Chair.
What does the division? Guys, what would you like her to do? Okay, please continue.
Okay, so you'll see for the Office of the Commission, the FY22 budget increase is 62% or $545,000, but the indirect cost that was reallocated to this division was $527,000. So there really isn't much of an increase in 22. And the FY23 budget is increasing 2% or $31,000 for that extra paycheck.
And all of that, Tina, some of those reallocations came out of your division, right? Your
Correct.
office.
Came out of.
So we will see a corresponding lowering in your area.
Correct. About
Okay.
1.8 million in finance administration.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So each page we provided a pie chart that shows the Office of the Commission, salaries and benefits, and then the breakdown for operating. The authorized full-time positions in this division is 2 unclassified and 2 classified positions. On page 10, we have the Division of Enforcement. And I also highlighted on each page the corresponding pages in the House Bill 1. So you know where each division starts.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. FY22 budget is increasing 1% or 36,000 for enforcement. But they also have the added 32,000 for indirect costs. So enforcement is pretty much flat funded in FY22. And FY23 budget is a 5% increase or 232,000, and that's to fund the additional paycheck.
Can you
We
talk
also-
about the position changes under salary? You have a $82,000 decrease. What positions changed?
We had some people that retired, and you have new people coming on at a lower step. And we also had some positions that we dragged for a period of time.
Okay, thank you.
In the Division of Enforcement, the authorized full-time positions, 1 unclassified, 12 sworn, and 12 civilian. 21 sworn, I'm sorry, and 12 civilian. The Division of Enforcement provides services for over 5,700 licensees, and they collect over 18 million in revenue in FY20. On the next slide, you have the Division of Administration. FY22 budget decrease 11% or $1 million. There's the 1.8 million for the deduction in indirect costs. And FY22 budget increase is 1.4% or 114,000, which is for the 27th pay period. As you can see, the DOIT budget makes up about 60% of this division funding. The authorized full-time positions is 1 classified, 15 in finance, 7 in HR, 4 in our outlet auditors, 2 inventory control, and 3 in legal. On page 12, we have the Division of Marketing and Merchandising. FY22 budget increase is 2.5% or 1.6 million. This is because this division absorbed most of the indirect cost of 1.3 million. FY23 budget increase of 4.8% or $3 million is for the 27th paycheck and for the additional funding for the maintenance and support contract. The authorized full-time positions is 1 unclassified, 13 in marketing and merchandising, 258 in the outlet store operations, and 2 in the warehouse. On page 13, I provided the workers' comp and unemployment comp budgets, counting units. And then on page 14, we have the appendix technical correction, where we're requesting to move the funding from accounting unit 1030 store operations, the class 103 to class 38. On page 15, we provided you a snapshot of the contract cover page where it was approved through GNC with the funding in class 38. So that concludes the presentation. We've also provided responses to Madam Chair's questions. So at this point, we would be happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
Representative Leishman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks for taking my questions. So I have a couple on page 343. Could you tell me why your overtime line, that's accounting unit 18 at the bottom of the page, in 2020, there was 17,000 and you're forecasting 70,000 for this coming biennium for the first year?
I'm sorry, what page you're on, Peter?
343, Madam Chair.
Thank
It's
you.
under enforcement. It's right down the bottom of.
Yep.
That's for the SINAR grant. And in the budget for 20 and 21, we had less funding. We only had, what was it, 1 grant for SINAR, and they've increased it by another 50,000, which was recently.
SINAR.
So the grant itself, the funding for the grant has increased, which was allocated throughout the grant. So you can see it went from on page 344 for the total for FY22, it was 50,000. In FY22 and 23, it's 205.
Okay.
How does that get increased?
What?
How does that get increased?
Yeah, so how does that get increased, the grant?
We received additional funds from HHS. So there was a new grant award that went through GNC. It started out at 50, there was an increase to 55,000, and then we just received another 100,000.
Okay, so if I go to page 347 and I look at the total for enforcement, the FDA tobacco, I continue that all the way down to, again, to the total. Are you saying that grant is responsible for over a 60% increase in your expenses? Because if you
Yes.
look at the actual of 142 and what you're planning for in 2022, it's like 64% in my rough head numbers. So that's because of the grant, you're saying?
Yes.
Interesting. I have nothing further at the moment, Madam Chair.
Okay. Other questions from committee members?
Madam Chair, neither Bill
Representative
nor I
Walls?
neither Bill nor I have these documents. LBA doesn't have them. They said they're trying to get them from Janet. Nothing has turned up. Through this entire presentation, neither of us have been able to follow this because we don't have the documents. And I just wanted to point that out, that we don't really
Yep.
know what's going on.
We are, I mean, as I said this morning, one of the things we've learned in this division was why remote meetings are not working well, and here we are. So thank you for that.
Well, I think it might have to do with when the Liquor Commission, if the Liquor Commission sent the documents, because nobody else seems to have them except you guys. And
Well, we didn't get them until later this afternoon when they were brought in. So we didn't have them early either. As you recall, sitting on the division last year, most of these documents are handed to you as they walk through the door, which we appreciate. So I hear what you're saying. There's nothing I can do about it sitting right now. Tina, can you tell me what SINAR actually is? I guess I don't understand why you get a grant from HHS.
I will defer that to the chief.
That would be great because somehow I think of you as selling product, making money, spending money to sell the product, but making money and giving it to us and us not giving it back to you. So this was a little confusing for me. And maybe Mark can step up to the mic, or he has a mic back there. He can explain this to me.
Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Can you guys hear? Not really.
Okay, I'll come up.
Remember, we have this air filtration system. We have wonderful air with a little bit of noise.
First of all, good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chair. For those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Mark Armaganian. I'm the Division Director for Enforcement and Licensing. The SINAR grant, that extra $100,000 was actually awarded to us through HHS to do alcohol compliance. It actually was facilitated through HHS, but came from the Governor's Commission on alcohol and other drug misuse. That money was utilized or is being utilized in partnership with the municipalities throughout the state to do alcohol compliance at any one of our, I think we're at 3,400 retail licensees.
So let me see if I have this. You sell product, you make money. 5% of that money goes to the Governor's Commission on Alcohol Abuse, and you got $100,000 of that back to work on compliance.
So the money that was actually given to us was actually not requested. It was actually requested of us to run this program. So I don't understand the 5% turnaround, but this was something that back in the day was, it was called UTIL, the UTIL grant for underage compliance. And it has just come forward in a different entity.
Mark, can you tell us how enforcement is really organized? Do all of those people report to you?
Yes, we have a rank structure for, and that actually is a rank structure that has been minimized and leaned down over the years. But our enforcement personnel, our investigators actually report to a supervisor, a boot on the ground supervisor.
So you have one supervisor?
We have 3 supervisors for 3 different teams of investigators throughout the state.
Okay, are those supervisors part of the 21 sworn staff?
Yes.
And how many do each of the 3 supervisors have reporting to them?
In the area of 6 to 7, depending on temporary assignments, where we need, of course, everything is done data driven here. So if we see that data is showing us that we need help in a certain area, we will actually move that supervisor, that investigator to the particular area to help out.
So according to the information on page 8, you have 34 people in your enforcement division, and you, of course, are the one unclassified. Under you, you have 33 classified. Of those, 3 are supervisors, having 6 to 7 people reporting to them. So between 18 and 21 people reporting to them. Do the rest of the people report to you?
No. So then on our administrative side of the house, which is for the majority civilian staffing, we have civilian supervisor that oversees the auditing area. We have a sworn supervisor that actually looks over the licensing area, and that is all overseen by a lieutenant.
So you have a total of 5 supervisors in your area, and they report to you.
So the breakdown, Madam Chair, would be 3 sergeants, 2 lieutenants, and then, of course, myself and the deputy chief, and then the rest are civilian staff.
Can you get an org chart over here of your staff for us?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Representative Burge, did I hear you had a question?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I'm still confused with the grant that you received from HHS. I had asked earlier if you've got any data to prove that it's been a positive impact or effect.
And they got them off the hook, and now you're back.
Yeah, well, but so somebody's got to answer. I don't know who's responsible for that.
So in regards to that grant, we can definitely provide that information.
Can you just give it to us now verbally?
I don't have that information on me, Madam Chair. At the same time, not using it as an excuse, but that all the compliance checks are done with underage buyers. And there has been a substantial amount of time that we have not put the underage buyers in the vehicles with our investigators due to the health crisis that is currently going on.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Hatch.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure you could see my hand up or not.
No, I was looking at the piece of paper that Representative Burge was just asking about to see if I saw something that would help him. What is your question, Representative Hatch?
Well, thank you. Just, I'm on the Governor's Commission also, and did this grant, A, increase personnel to accomplish the end, and B, how much is devoted to educational factors for the stores in terms of compliance and otherwise?
Thank you for your question, Representative. First and foremost, this grant was a compliance grant. It's physically going out to our licensed establishments, our on-premise and off-premise establishments, and with an underage buyer and checking on compliance.
May I continue, Madam Chair?
Follow up?
Yes, follow up. So I understand that, and I understand that completely. But what efforts are given that was part of the discussion that was quite a while ago in the commission in terms of educating proprietors and their personnel as to the appropriate steps to take and what needs to be done in terms of compliance. I'm just asking that because there was a huge problem with that in the past, before your tenure, of course, but nevertheless, it's been a huge problem.
And thank you for your question. And ironically, this was a conversation that myself and Madam Chairman had as I walked in the door here 4 years ago, and that was about education. Our education, our training unit is extremely robust. There are 2 training two training specialists that are actually attached to that unit. We give training not only to management, our management training seminars, our MTS program. So everybody who gets a license, that person in charge, that management has to go through that training to actually learn the negative outcomes to underage service, over service, and the liabilities that are incurred through that. We have a similar training in our, what we call our training employee seminar, which is our teams program that actually trains servers in the same liabilities to include detecting fictitious IDs, the outward signs of intoxication, all the tools that they would need to be able to alleviate that establishment and themselves from liability or what liability would incur with the business. We also teach a very similar seminar to our own employees at our liquor store outlets. We have the DRE program, which is our drug recognition program that we coordinate for the whole state. That's through a highway safety grant. We have approximately 15 training seminars that are actually out of that unit to help not only our licensees, but administrative personnel at schools to recognize the outward signs of intoxication and what to do in those circumstances and who to call.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your questions. You asked most of mine.
Any other questions? Representative Leishman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we heard from the Commissioner of the Department of Administrative Services that has shown us and seen documentation. A lot of our health care and benefits costs have been reduced substantially. Yet I'm looking at yours and I'm just going, I'll take a page here, 349. And compared to 2020 and going over to 2022, your benefits are up nearly 20%. So why are your costs for benefits going up so much when other departments and commissions and so forth in the state going down or staying flat?
Well, the actual budget for benefits is based on the full-time positions or the benefits associated with part-timers. So that's driven by the system. It's not calculated by us. So it could be that we've had a position that changed from somebody that came in with a family that before was on a single plan.
Yeah.
Tina, have you been having quite a bit of turnover?
In finance or agency-wide?
Well, anywhere, because you're right, as people change, I mean, it's not as, you may have had some people who had a baby who used to be a two-person, and so now they're a family, but I just wondered if you were having from retirements, because we have had a lot of retirements. I mean, some of
Yes,
that leads to turnover,
Yes, we have had turnover.
and that leads to benefit changes based on who you hire.
Correct.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, I didn't know if your hand was up again or hadn't gone down, Representative Hatch. So absolutely, you may.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just a side note, I went into the newly renovated Gorham store last night, and a job well done. Looks good, and hopefully business gets back there. No samples though, but anyways, look great.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Okay, so if we're going to do side notes, Commissioner, Representative Hatch would like you to get a liquor store up by, is it the Shelburne rest area bill that I hear about a lot? Was that what the one you want him to worry, what you want him to put a liquor store?
Well, no, I was just worried about the one in Gorham.
Okay, all right.
I'll take two any day. Thank you.
All right, looks like we're done. Thank you very much for coming. You're gonna get some stats over for Representative TeBurge, and you're gonna get a org chart for enforcement over to us. And I think those are the only two questions we asked. Representative Emmerich, I've forgotten something.
No, Madam Chair, I had a question about the upgrade of the Hampton liquor stores to be more like what's on 93. Is that still scheduled?
It is, Representative. Those, we have contracted with a real estate agent on the seacoast, and they are going through the process of marketing those properties for the Liquor Commission as we speak.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Madam Chair, if I can, our program was dropped off at 9 o'clock this morning over at the State House. So I sincerely apologize for they're not getting to the representatives as.
Commissioner, we have a couple of people who are, I mean, 5 of us are here in the State House. By 9 o'clock this morning, I was meeting with the governor on something else. So, you know, it's just been one of those days where we've all been running here and there, and we understand, you know, there are really significant difficulties with remote situations. And I think we have encountered almost all of them, including a soundboard that was losing a channel. So we had constant static, and we tried all kinds of things here. We were the most creative people at trying to get rid of static so that Representative Walz and Representative Hatch no longer had it in their ear that you could imagine. But replacing the board finally is what did it. So, you know, it's been up and down, and we appreciate it. We're working the best we can through this. Right now, most of us here in this room have been happily vaccinated, and Tracy took the hard way. He had COVID and recovered, so he joined the herd the hard way. I took the vaccinated route. You know, we've just tried a variety of things here, and we're working together. It's not a perfect world, even when you sit in the same room, but thank you for saying that. Have a great day. Thank you for coming. Thank you for presenting. I wish we'd been able to see you in person, but maybe soon.
Hopefully
Thank you.
soon, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we are adjourned until tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Thank you for your hard work. We made quite a bit of progress today. I'm really seeing
I know, they cut us off. They took it out of that room. You're still muted.
By the way, Violet has a torn rotator cuff, but could be
Yeah, you
worse.
said that.
Yeah. Okay.